Hello everyone, welcome back to GPVWC. This is the second round of the Formula Sprint 1 Championship of 2022. As you can see by the fancy spinny graphic on the screen, we are at the Bahrain International Circuit, also known as Sakhir, which of course is in the country of Bahrain. I'm your commentator, Caitlin Penny. Alongside me is McIntyre, and of course our broadcast director, cameraman extraordinaire is Szymon Frelik. Russ, we're at Bahrain and we're ready for some racing.
Indeed we are, of course. Hello everybody and welcome, as Caitlin said, to the second round of the Formula Sprint 1 Championship here at the Bahrain International Circuit. The sun is shining in game because it was nice and warm in Bahrain earlier today, as you'd expect, because we are in the middle of the desert. And of course we've got two fantastic races to get you all excited lined up for, and as well get you excited for Formula 1, which returns this weekend at Bahrain. So getting in the F1 spirit. And of course, hopefully giving Caitlin a nice birthday present as well.
Thank you very much. Qualifying is about to get going. We have 15 minutes of qualifying, and it is single driver only. So every driver will have the track completely to themselves at the same time, which is something that you can't do in real life. Try to wrap your head around that one, but you can in simulator racing, and it's one of the many magical things that we can do with a bit of Factor 2 trickery. We'll be keeping you up to date on the times as we go through the session. A couple of headlines after the last race. It's way too early to be talking about the championship, but we do have three drivers tying on points for the top of the standings. Tom Stevens, Frank Hamming, and Moritz Kropp. We'll talk more about those later on. Of course, it's very difficult to say that those are the drivers fighting for the championship win or whatever, because we've also had a win from Owen McGorgy, and we've got plenty of other drivers who didn't even, finish races in race one. We simply don't know yet. It's way, way too early. Also, there were a couple of penalties. We have no grid penalties today, but there were time penalties applied to Jason Muscat, which cost him some points. We saw him, unfortunately, having quite an eventful day in terms of incidents and accidents, and he got a time penalty in both races. And Adrian Faber got a 5-second penalty for race one as well, meaning that he too lost points. So those are the main headlines. Also, Isaac Morris, who had an awful day last time out, is not here today, and he is being replaced by Maciej Heiler in the Santon Motorsports car, and I'm afraid I can't tell you why that is. Jamie Bradfield, is that a new name as well? I don't recognise that one. Anyway, we'll keep you updated as we go along. We're currently watching Owen McGorgy. He is about to start his first flying lap. Russ, would you like to talk us around the Sakhir circuit?
Oh, go on then if you insist. Why not? On board with Owen McGorgy as he takes the widest possible line into the final corner and heads onto the main straight. Very, very long straight here, but you won't hit the highest of speeds because it's quite a high downforce circuit here at Bahrain, so you need to carry a lot of speed through this middle sector. Coming into the first corner, I want to be hitting the brakes just after that 100-meter board, turning in full lock. Try not to scrub too much speed on the front end. Very tricky section coming out of the Michael Schumacher corner. Don't want to lose the rear as you head down here. Now, I would normally take quite a wide line out of there, but I've never really driven this circuit in our Factor 2, so I'll let Owen be the final judge of that. Bring it in now for turn 4. Let the car hang out on the circuit. Really ride that curb as well, and then the sand and coming in, just clipping that inside curb. Don't let it unsettle the car as you head through this flat out right-left section. Now into the hairpin. Don't lock up on the way in. Don't oversteer on the way out. Sounds easier said than done. And now probably the hardest corner on the circuit, the downhill, turn 10. You're braking or turning. It is super easy to get it wrong here and lock up. McGorgy, though, seems to have it all nailed in. Bit of a wobble on the exit, but it's a purple sector through sector 1. And it looks to be pretty clean through sector 2. Well, of course, this is a bank lap, but not bad from Owen McGorgy so far. Takes the Simracing line into the next corner. Nearly all four wheels over the white line. And now just try and get the car hustled in to the left-hand side so you can take the maximum speed through this right-hander. Another tricky corner where you're braking and turning at the same time. A few of those around here at Sakhir. It's a purple middle sector as well. Then down the back straight, one turn to go. Just get the braking zone right into here. Don't overdo it on the exit and you'll have a nice little lap to get an early run in for McGorgy. Nice and easy on the brakes. Doesn't quite hit the sausage curb. Bit of a wobble mid-corner, but nothing to worry about this far into the session. Brings it to the line. DRS wide open. This should be a very, very nice lap time from Owen McGorgy. It is indeed a 1:35.807 currently in P2, nearly 2/10 behind Tom Stevens. And as I say, that Drs goes to the provisional pole. Of course, it's very early in this qualifying session, so there's going to be lots and lots of drivers moving around as they try and find the grip of the track, the grip of the tyres, how the car is feeling. But that's a nice little lap on there from Omagorg, and I feel it's a nice little representation of what the drivers are facing around here at the Sakhir circuit as well. It is actually a deceivingly difficult track here at Bahrain. It's very, very wide, very, very fast. There's lots of heavy braking zones, so lots of overtaking opportunities, and there's lots of opportunities to make a mistake as well, because you're on the limit for so long. There's a big wobble from Adrian Faber there as he rides the curb on the way out of the corner. There's lots of opportunities just to, when you're pushing too hard because it's so fast into these heavy braking zones, it's so easy to lock up, so easy to carry too much speed into the corner, on the exit of the corner, and have some massive snap oversteer. So it's really a track where it's more about being consistent rather than being outright fast. Because, being consistent, you won't make those mistakes and you'll put the good laps in. But that being said, it is important to be fast as well. And of course, we have 2 races to look forward to tonight as well, with the reverse grid in race 2. So don't let if you have a poor result in race 1, it's there's still plenty of things able to go. 28 laps for the first race here. Of course, the qualifying for that race will be decided by where the drivers are at the end of this session. Currently, it's Drs who looks like he'll be going off pole position for race 1. Then coming into race 2, a random number is pulled out of the hat, and whatever that number is, wherever the driver finished in that position, they get pole. Pole position goes to that number, and so on and so forth down the order. And a bit shorter, no mandatory pit stop in race 2 as well if you're new to GPVWC. So it's well, we call it the sprint race for a reason. It's a bit more hectic and a bit less pit stops. So he's sort of a bit of a wobble coming out of the penultimate corner there. So that's what's to expect coming into Bahrain here with a little over 9.5 minutes left in qualifying. And Drs I must say, Caitlin, that's a really, really nice banker lap that he's got going there.
It is. Of course, it's still extremely early in the qualifying session to be talking about the finishing result. And it's very close still between Drs and Jake Dennehan, the 2 TCS Off racing cars, who obviously had their setup tuned to perfection today. And of course, those are 2 very, very good drivers as well. Kenneth Singleton across the line there in P10. We have 20... Whoa, that's a big slide. We have 29 cars on track right now. The one that's missing is the second E-Team Brett car. And I don't know why that is. Of course, it was Martin Buchan who had that car last time out, and unfortunately he did not have a good day. Had many incidents and came away from it pointless, but and now he's not here, so he's guaranteed to come away from it pointless unless he shows up, and that's a shame for the E-Team Brett team. 29 cars though, still very much enough to make a race. Here's Moritz Kropp, one of the 3 drivers who benefited the most from the first run of the championship from a points point of view, and he's faster than our P1 time in the second sector there. So as we watch Moritz through the final corner, what you're watching here could be one of the top times of the session, depending on how that goes. The red walls on the tyres show that it's the quickest compound, and across the line he goes, and that is P4, so it's not particularly competitive from a pole position challenge, but I'm being extremely picky with that because obviously it's still an incredible lap, and that means, interestingly, that it's TCS off 1, 2, and then Nocturne have 3 and 4 on the grid as we speak. 2 teams breaking away from the rest, Russ.
Indeed, so it'll be interesting to see how that all comes out over the remainder of the session. Of course, GPVWC, one of the new regulations that we've brought in for this year is the private qualifying session. So you are out on track on your own. There is no one else out on track for you in your version of the game. It's a bit of a weird concept to comprehend if you're new to R-Factor 2, if you're new to Simracing. Essentially, qualifying is going on. Everyone is out on track right now, but in each driver's game, it's just them out on track. So you don't get any help from the slipstream. There's no bad luck. It's all about what you can do as the driver. Yes, the track evolves, but it evolves by a percentage amount, not by the cars going round. So it's all about what the drivers can do. So it's interesting to see those 2 teams breaking away. But again, there's still 7 minutes left in this qualifying session. So we'll have to see what happens across the course of the remaining 7 minutes on board with Tom Stevens as he heads into the top end of the circuit. Coming to the... See, very interesting. A lot of cars running very, very long gears here. I know it's a fast circuit with long straights, but, running out on top of 5th gear coming around there. I thought I'd at least been 6th. I mean, I personally prefer lower gears in a car anyway. With some very, very long gears. It's seemingly helping Tom Stevens, though, as he comes around the final corner with a purple middle sector, 1.5 tenths up. As he comes to the line, it's green in the first as well. A 1:35.486 to the time to beat, and he smashes it with a 1:35.349. A great lap time to go to the pole by 1.5 tenths there. But again, as I said, Caitlin, still plenty of time left in this session.
Very nicely done. Coming into the session, the best time was a 1:35.5 set in practice, and we've already gone almost 2 tenths quicker than that. So very, very good from Tom Stevens, but still some more time to come. The track is still getting quicker. Here's Remco de Joux. He was racing in the Formula Sprint 2 race a couple of days ago and goes P25 in the order with that lap. And we've lost a driver because we're down to 28. Arda Erkan has briefly left the server. I say briefly, let's hope it's brief, because obviously you can't start the race if you're not in the server. Amari Watson here is improving on his time. He's going a couple of tenths up on what he's previously done in the first sector, and the second sector timing beam is right at the top of the hill. So when he goes around this next right-hander, he'll trip that beam, and we'll be able to see what his time is. The third sector is an interesting one to watch, actually, because the third sector is almost all straights. You've got this long back straight, and then of course the start-finish straight as well. So if you're quick in the third sector, that means that your car has passing potential and straight line speed. Final corner coming up for Amari Watson, and out of the final corner he goes. It's not going to be a pole contention time, but probably top 5 contender maybe. Let's see. And he goes 5th. So Amari Watson does move up into the top 5 for us.
Indeed he does. Nice little lap there from Amari Watson. But as I've been saying, there's still time left in this qualifying session for drivers to go faster. Still time left in this qualifying session for things to change on a dime, as they so often do here in GPVWC and the Formula Sprint 1 Championship. Gerrit de Vries coming into the pits after a green middle sector, clearly not happy with how his lap was going. Justin van der Smissen, though, 2 green sectors from him, a driver who has done a lot of work over the off-season, and we saw some real improvement from last time out at Imola. Let's see what he can do round in the final corner. Again, all of these guys out on track have a lot of time left to go and set a few more laps, 2-3 more laps at least. So, don't think this is the final run just yet. Unfortunately, it's a yellow in the final sector, and Justin cannot improve. James Lambert, meanwhile, for E-Team Brit, 2 green sectors as he comes to the line. And it's a 1:37.811. He does improve up to P26. So, once again, we've got it super, super close top of the field. It's just over a second down to P13 from the pole time. As you're fading it back a bit, the gap widens just a little bit. We've got Mike Bell 4 and a bit seconds off, but he's in the pits and has been for quite a while. So I'm thinking he's just sitting there waiting, abiding his time. Mccorman now has a purple first sector. Green in the second sector, though. Overall, he's down. Let's see what he does as he comes to the line, and he goes to second. Oh, just a second. Same lap time as Drs Andre to the thousandth of a second.
Wow.
That is incredible. Both of them point. Oh, and Krop beats them to second place. But Mccorman and Andre, identical lap times. That shows just how competitive it is here in FS1. Brilliant stuff from the pair of them. I mean, of course, in theory, Drs Andre should be getting that P3 because he set the lap time first. The game clearly thinks that Mccorman gets it. If that's how it is in the game, that's how it will run, I presume.
It's interesting because the game says they set the same time, but the timing screen actually has Andre a 10th back. Sorry, not a 10th, a 1000th back. Drs Andre, they're coming into the pits to set up for his final run, abandoning a lap that could have been pretty good if he continued it. It was fastest of anyone in the second sector, but he's thinking that he can do even better with one more run. His Mccorman, decent. Well, it's actually not a fairly. It's not a good first sector compared to what he's previously done. It's still pretty good, but it's a little off, about a 10th off. He's coming through the second sector now, and there is the second sector timing beam, and it's off there as well. So I think that Mccorman will be coming into the pits to set up for his final run. If he has time is ticking down here, but with 1:35 for a lap, he might just be able to get around for another one. Some improvements coming from further down the order, although I think, realistically, as you see Tom Parker here, who's made a big mistake in the second sector, I think realistically, this is the point where everyone is setting up for their final runs, and they're going to go for the gold. One driver who's not going to be going for the gold is Moritz Kropp, because he does not have time. Well, he's actually going back out of the pits, but he doesn't have time to get around to start another lap. For the time being, it's a knockdown 1-2. I think that's in jeopardy, though, because there are other faster drivers, well, not faster, but drivers who are as fast and have the potential to be faster, going out onto the track right now. Magorgi is out there, Andre's out there, here's Omari Watson, he's just started a flying lap, and I think we're going to watch this flying lap for a bit and see how he does.
So, let's follow around Omari Watson with under a minute left to go on the clock. This will be his final lap of the session, coming into turn 4 up the top of the hill. Bit of a wobble on the exit as we go on board with the number 7 HGP driver now coming through, clips the curb, now in. A little bit less curb than Omagorgi was taking. That actually had the adverse effect of actually dropping him a bit further out, so had a bit more work to do for the left-hander. Nice and clean, very nice and clean through the hairpin though. That was super smooth through there. Now coming down into turn 9 and 10, braking. Shifts very, very early. He wants to get the car slowed down as much as he can in a straight line. This is a very, very tidy lap from Omari Watson already. Very clean coming down through turn 2. Turn 2, turn 9 even. And that's going to be an area where you're going to see lots and lots of different lines from the drivers. And also, I expect there's going to be some chaos there on lap 1 of the race. Coming back up the hill now, should be crossing the sector line around about now. It's another green, but he's a 10th and a half off. But there's still improvements to be made for Omari Watson. Heads down, the penultimate straight, checkered flag is out. Can it be a magical final sector for the HGP driver? Final corner on the brakes, not quite on the curb, clips the inside turn. This is a really tidy lap from Omari Watson, as he gets a little bit of snap oversteer on the exit of the corner, keeps it nice and clean to the line. It's a 1:35.624. He does not improve in position, but he improves in time. Does anybody else go anywhere else? Stevens has got another purple sector in Sector 1. He's looking to improve his time for the Nocturne team. Can Kropp... Kropp can't respond, he's in the pits. Can Magorgi respond? Andre, Denahan, can these guys all get any closer to the top 6 you're looking at? Denahan comes in, so it's Magorgi and Andre. All nothing. Stevens, though, is down in the middle sector. Overall, he's up by a few thousandths. Into the last corner he goes. Can he improve? It's very nice and tidy. No wobbles from anywhere on the car. To the line, Tom Stevens, does he improve? Yes, he does. It's a 1:35.328 to assure the pole position. Andre, though, is massively up in the middle sector. Drs Andre doesn't improve. He goes to second by half a tenth of a second. It was purple in the middle sector. Mike Quint has improved in the middle as well, but he's down in the first. And it will be, as it looks like, Tom Stevens on the pole position as Mike Quinn comes to the line, goes to 7th with a 1:35.713. But Tom Stevens with a great lap there. Drs Andre very, very close. But for race 2, race 1 even of round 2 here at the Bahrain International Circuit, and is the driver who did so well last time out in Imola with a P7 and a P6 to his name after a whole host of problems. Tom Stevens takes the pole position for Nocturne with a great lap. Drs Angelo super close in P2. Moritz Kropp not far behind in P3 either. Omagorgi did the best he could in P4 with Denahan and Watson rounding out the third row of the grid. Then it's Mike Quint, Jason Muscat, Menno Kont and Frank Hamming rounding out the top 10 of the grid for race 1, followed by Alexander Ragota, Matu Sabinski, Damien Kardash, Philip Koenig and Massage Heiler, with Craig Patterson, Adrian Faber, Tom Parker, Kenneth Singleton and in P20 Casper Michalak. Rounding out that top 20 place. Guy Sonneveld follows with Great de Vries, Arda Erkan, Justin van der Swiss and Mike Bell, Remo de Zru, James Lambert, Purgis Miram and Jamie Bradfield is in P28. Looks like we've had a couple drivers drop out of the session because there should be 30 drivers, and we've lost another one as well as we go down to 27. Hopefully they'll be able to rejoin. But what a qualifying session we've just seen, Caitlin, and it sets up a very interesting race 1.
Yeah, it does. A couple of people just dropping out briefly. Tom Stevens is actually one of those, so very much let's hope they can they can get back. But yeah, this does set up a good race, and I always say that, but Bahrain especially is a very strategic race circuit. It's one that doesn't really punish drivers that much if they make mistakes, but it does keep drivers very close. Lots of straights for slipstreaming, and the straights here are interesting actually because they're just long enough to keep the cars close and just not long enough to make overtaking easy. Tire wear here is relatively high as well. Not the highest on the calendar, but it's definitely something that you have to keep in the back of your mind because of those sweepers in the late first and late second sectors. And I think that's going to mainly come into effect in race 2 because uh, it's going to be touch and go as to whether it's quicker to come in and make a pit stop or whether you run the whole race on hards. I don't think anyone's going to be running the full sprint race on softs, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In the main race, remember what we have seen in previous years in GPVWC with Super Cup. I remember a good fight between Jason Muscat and Michael Francesconi here a few years ago. That would have been, I think, 2018 or 2019 in Super Cup, and that went on for basically the whole race. And things like that happen all the time when we come here with GPWC because it's a track that lends itself to that.
Oh, absolutely. Bahrain, I think it shows itself a bit better off in sim racing, to be honest, than it does in real world motorsport. It's a track that is, I find, very hit and miss in motorsport, but you know, when we come here in sim, no matter the series, no matter the car, it always delivers a fantastic race or a fantastic pair of races that I'm sure we're about to get tonight. Of course, now in the warm-up session, though, of course, if you're new to GPVWC, new to R Factor 2, the simulator that we run the series on, then it's basically just 10 minutes for the drivers to check the tyre pressures, check the car's okay, check all their hardware, do some practice starts, and just have some fun, really. It's a bit of a throwaway session, to be brutally honest. Some drivers don't bother. Some drivers just like to use it to get into the zone for the race. But it's 10 minutes, just kind of whack around, make sure everything's working okay, get prepared for when the 5 red lights that we all so dearly love go out. And Purchase Mirror making good use of the session. You'll probably be seeing a few teammates crashing into each other, to be honest, as well as we did at Imola. I think it was I want to say it was the Gallery 82 guys who were just racing each other, just driving each other off the road at every corner in the warm-up session then, which was a great laugh to see. And that's part of the beauty of sim racing, to be fair, is you do get to have these sorts of laugh. I mean, at the end of the day, the aim of the game in sim racing is to have fun. Yes, of course, you want to compete, you want to win, you want to take home the trophies and the prizes, but really it is all about having fun out there with fellow enthusiasts. And the warm-up session, it's part of that fun, you know. It's just a bit of relaxation time before, you know, you put your pedal to the metal and the real stuff gets going. And, well, of course, it's just a part of how things run here. And, of course, as we see there, Jake Dennehan doing some of the infamous warm-up practice starts. If you are new here to GPVWC, well, firstly, hello and welcome. You could not have picked a better race to come in and join the fun. And, well, if you haven't already, then please do consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button on the screen. A lot of effort goes into organising these events, these races across all of the championships here at GPV. And, well, we really do not, you know, we cannot appreciate your support enough. It really does mean the world to everybody here at GPVWC. And, of course, if you want to get involved as well, if you're not already, you want to find us some more, you can go to the website, you can just punch in GPVWC. There's the old one started back up now as well, so we've got multiple runs running around. You can follow the link in the description as well to find out more there. And if you want to really get involved, you can go and find the Discord through said website, which is where all the action, all the magic really happens. And then you can come along, maybe jump in an academy race. If you're already a proven sim racer, maybe you can come on and find yourself a seat in one of the other championships as well. Who knows? It would be lovely to have you along. But as always, the invite is always open, as we see here, just this absolute train of cars following each other. And this, Caitlin, is what we've got to get used to for tonight in the race proper, because it is going to be nose-to-tail action for 29 laps the first time round and then 18 laps the second time round.
Look at this, it's like the first lap of the race out there. 5 of them in a row. You got both of the TCS off cars in there, one of the HGPs, and also too, are those the Multiforce cars bookending this train as well? This is great stuff to watch. And yeah, like you said, we're going to be seeing more and more of this as the session goes on. Yeah, it's the Multiforce cars. You've got Jason Muscat at the front, being overtaken now on the outside by Frank Hamming, who's not quite going to turn in, and gets the place. Nicely done. It feels interesting to be commentating on racing action. Well, a big spin. Oh, and a crash. Menno Klunt crashing with the Darius Andre there on the straight. I was going to say it feels... Oh, they're going to go 3 wide! Look at that! This really is like a race. We've got 5 minutes to go until the race starts. They're racing over literally nothing, but it's fantastic to see Jake Dennehan swerving over the curve. And we've got to protect our voices here, Russ, because if this is an indication of what's going to happen later on, then we're in for a cracker. I know we say that every time, but look at this.
I mean, we always are in for a cracker at GPVWC, aren't we?
Yeah.
Every race is absolutely brilliant every single time. It's just how things work, isn't it? And yeah, these guys are racing over absolutely nothing at the moment. There's 4 minutes left of a session. That is literally a throwaway session for most people. It's the only session where you can escape back to the pits. It's the only session where you can destroy your car and rejoin the circuit. But it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? You know, these guys, they're... At the same time, you know, they're probably having a blast and having a laugh and racing each other, but at the same time, they're probably thinking, ooh, could I use this for an overtaking spot in the race? Let's give it a try. Let's see what these guys are going to be like in their race trim. So I'm sure, you know, guys like Jake Dennehan, some of the top drivers out on the grid, you know, they're sitting there, you know, in their bedrooms or their living rooms or wherever they've got their sim rig set up with a smile on their face, but also just at the back of their brain, that little racer in them's thinking, how can I use this to my advantage? And of course, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, every driver on this grid is superb, but it's, you know, it's about being smart as well out on track. And as I say that, Dennehan decides to take a liberally large corner cut there, shall we say. Again, it doesn't matter, it's the warm-up. You won't be seeing drivers doing that too much during the races here tonight. But well, it'll be interesting to see how he's doing. These guys have literally been running nose to tail for about 2 laps now. So yeah, looking very, very interesting for the race. And, well, you know, as I said earlier, Bahrain is a track that always delivers in sim racing. It's always fun to watch cars going around here at. And, you know, I'm sure everybody's going to be sat at their sim rig at home with a massive smile on their face. It really is a fan favourite. It really is a driver favourite. And I'm really looking forward to what we have on offer here tonight.
Indeed. Plenty of excitement in the YouTube chat as well. Good to see. Karen Hamming's following us. No prizes for guessing who Karen is cheering for. Jake Dennehan saying, I reckon I could beat this field by at least 2 seconds. Only 2? Yes, indeed. Dan Hayek, of course, racing in the Formula Sprint 2 Championship right now, and actually doing pretty well in it. Definitely one of the most improved drivers from last season. As we see Hamming going side by side now with Jason Muscat. Lee Davidson saying this grid is ridiculously stacked, arguably stronger than lights. I feel like commentator Szymon Frelik will disagree with that, but oh sorry, not commentator, cameraman. But this is definitely a stacked grid. We've got people who have raced and done significantly well in Super League in this field, and of course people who would put the average sim racer to shame with their driving ability. Plenty more names I recognise here. Carter Mccorman having a whale of a time. Both of the TCS off racing cars that he manages were doing very, very well in qualifying, and they will both be starting in the top 5 if I remember correctly. And he has a very good chance of seeing his cars come home for some wins and podiums today. And a lot of other TCS... Sorry, hiccups. A lot of other TCS off fans in the chat as well. This circuit, we've got a few comments about the circuit. Bit of an anomaly, an enigma. Let's say that. That's easier to say. Because like you implied earlier, Russ, it's one that seems to have all of the hallmarks of a really, really good Grand Prix circuit. It's got 3 long straights separated by heavy braking zones. It's got sweepers. It's got slower, tighter corners. It really should be a circuit that provides great racing, and it sometimes does. I mean, I'm talking in real life mainly. It sometimes does. We've had some fairly good races here. No exceptional ones, but we've had some enjoyable ones. But we've also had some races that just haven't really delivered what they promised to, and it doesn't really make that much sense. But in sim racing, it has brought out the true nature of the circuit, and it's brought those fights, and it's brought those tense wheel-to-wheel races that we've been expecting. And I can't really explain that. I guess it's that you can never make a simulator truly realistic, but with it being as realistic as it is still real enough to make us excited about it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Oh, excuse me there, sorry. Kenny's got hiccups, some burping, it's all going wrong tonight. But it's, you know, there have been some, you know, classic motorsport races here. You know, thinking of F1, you think of the Duel in the Desert in 2014, you think, you know, Vettel in 2018 and nursing those, like, 50-lap-old, like, medium tyres all the way home. As the checkered flag comes out for the warm-up, and you think as well, the World Endurance Championship race here last year was absolutely fantastic. And then as well, there's some races where, like, well, was there even a race? Because you don't remember it happening. You know, it's just a bit of a weird one. I don't know. I mean, that's motorsport. I guess it's a weird sport. You know, sometimes strange things happen that no one can explain. But in sim racing, you know, it is a great track. It's one of my favourites to commentate over. It's one of my favourites to drive as well. And the rare occasion that I decide to get in and pedal before I realise how terrible I am and I start crying. It's just a fantastic circuit to drive in a simulator. It really, really is, and it's a fantastic circuit to watch in a simulator. It's a fantastic circuit to commentate at a simulator. You know, I was doing some stuff earlier. I was, you know, running late at school. I was out running some different stuff for my teachers, and I kind of said, like, oh, I've got work, so I was like, oh, it's Bahrain. Never mind. I'm very excited now. So it's you know, I'm very much looking forward to it. And of course, the checkered flag out, so we'll be seeing the drivers jumping over onto the grid in a minute before we head off for our formation lap. You know, race one, obviously it's maybe a little bit less chaotic, shall we say, than race two, due to the fact it's a bit longer, 28 laps compared to 19 laps. It's you know, a mandatory pit stop as well, so strategy does come into play. But you know, it will be, you know, a tough race. Race two is obviously where it all kicks off and all goes up the pan, but you know, race one, it's going to be enjoyable, I hope. I know it will be. It always is here at GPVWC, and it always is at Bahrain. Funnily enough, when you combine two things, you get an even better thing. So, what's not to love?
With all that being said about the Bahrain circuit, I am very, very hyped for both Grand Prix coming up. The Formula One Grand Prix is going to be fantastic, and I honestly cannot predict the pecking order that we're going to see. And of course, the GPVWC Grand Prix is going to be coming up with the Super League drivers next week, and that is going to be a great one as well, I'm sure. But anyway, in the meantime, we've got FS1 here, Formula Sprint 1, and luckily Tom Stevens has made it back. He made it back a little while ago, so he will be here. And all of the 29 drivers who we saw out in qualifying are going to be on the track for the start of the race. I guess the next thing to look out for is what tyres everyone's going to be starting on. The magical P11 spot on the grid is taken by Alexander Ragosa, and he appears to be on soft tyres. Although I've said that before, and then the start of the race has happened, and suddenly all of the tyres have changed colours before my very eyes. So I'm not entirely sure yet. But we do have graphics this year, actually, that show us what tyres people are on, so I'm sure we will show you those in due time. Away on the formation lap we go. Let's get the grid onto the screen, and it will be the same as our qualifying order. It's Tom Stevens on pole, followed by Darius Andre, then Moritz Kropp in third place, so 2 Nocturnes in the top 3. Then we've got Owen McGorgy, P4, that's for Nova Sim Racing. Jake Denahan, Omari Watson, Mike Quint, and Jason Muscat. Muscat, I feel, has won here in the past, I think 2018 potentially. Anyway, next slide shows Urs Menno Klont and Frank Hamming, Alexander Ragosa, Mateusz Ziobinski. Then we have P13 is going to be Damien Kardash alongside Philip Koenig. Maciej Heiler standing in for Isaac Morris, who unfortunately isn't here, and again, I don't know why that is. Craig Patterson at P16, the Williams mega fan. Adrian Faber is P17, then it's Tom Parker, Kenneth Singleton, and Casper Michalak for Smile Power Racing. And if you look at the rear wing, you can tell exactly why they call that car the Smile Power. Gijs Sonneveld is P21, followed by Gerrit de Vries and Arda Erkan, the Friesland Racing Team cars. Justin van der Smissen is P24. Then it's Mike Bell, who runs the Smile Power squad, although doesn't race for them. Remco de Gijs, James Lambert in the only E-Team Brit car, and then Perseus Miram. And the final spot in the grid will be taken up by Jamie Bradfield in the other Smile Power car, which also has a smiley face on the side pod. Now, 29 cars and 28 laps ahead of us, and only one driver is going to come away from this absolutely thrilled, and I'm sure it's going to be whoever finishes in first position. Let's watch them as they come down towards the line. Nocturne has two cars right up there. TCS Off do as well. HGP aren't too far off, neither are Multiforce. Ross, what are you looking at the start of this race?
Well, the lights, and then see who gets away. Really, that's kind of what I always look at. But I'm looking at people like Philip Koenig on the hard tyres, Parker Faber as well. I think that'll be interesting to see how the alternate strategy, if you cast your mind back to the Imola Super League race, and the alternate strategy turns out it was the one to be on, and we only realised with about 5 laps to go, it was hang on a minute, the people who started on the hards are actually about to win the race. Well, let's just say that everybody in the top 10 started on the softs. That was a bit crazy. So we're looking at strategy, we're looking at the drivers on those hard and those soft tyres, looking at the dirty side of the grid. I'm interested to see how they pull away. And crucially, I'm looking at that heavy braking zone into the Michael Schumacher corner, down into turn 1. It's going to be interesting.
Just quickly as well, you see 3 cars lining up there at pit exit. Those are Mike Bell, James Lambert, and Jamie Bradfield. So 3 drivers who are going to start 25th and lower anyway have elected to steer clear of the starting carnage. Here comes the 5 red lights. And when they go out, we will be underway, which we are now. So Tom Stevens gets a bad start, a very bad start. Darius Andre is going to lead the race into turn 1, and Moritz Krops up to P2. And Stevens drops even further. There's slight contact with one of the HGP cars, and they just about get away with it. In the background, another car gets tipped a little sideways, but just about stays pointing forwards. Down towards turn 2 here, turn 3. Darius Andre still leads this race, 3 wide further back. Gijs Sonneveld on the outside line goes sailing into the corner, but that's okay. And Tom Stevens in this race has dropped out. He's dropped to 4th place, so he's dropped out of the podium positions on the first lap. As there's been a crash, Gerrit de Vries loses his rear wing, and it's both of the Friesland cars involved because Arda Erkan is also struggling and at the back of this field, Ross.
Yeah, indeed. Cardinal City Motorsports potentially being seen there. Let's see what happens. Gerrit de Vries without his rear wing. So coming up to turn 4 now. Hard on the brakes. Oh, no, there was contact. I couldn't quite see who that was that they touched with, and then just bounces ricochets into his teammate. So what a shame there for both the Friesland cars.
It was Casper Michalak there who went into the back of them. So I feel the stewards may have a look at that. We'll have to see.
Yeah, indeed, but as it stands, Darius Andre will lead the first lap of this race, presuming he makes it round the final corner. All okay. Tom Stevens, with a nightmare start. Just, I don't know if he just bogged down or he wheel spinned or what, but he just didn't move off of the line at all. He's down in P4 at the moment. It's Andre from McGorgy from Denahan on lap 1 of this race, and there's I think there's been an accident there's cars flying everywhere. I've seen a rear wing flying places in the background as well. As we've got cars sliding up the order, sliding down the order. We've got that's Casper Michalak coming in. He's got no front wing. We've got another car coming in as well alongside him. So interesting stuff there further back. So not all clean on the first lap of the race. Denahan, meanwhile, setting his sights firmly on Omagorgi in front as they come around the top of the hill. And a little bit wide from... that was Goats there in the Gallery 82 car. And Amari Watson, though, interesting to see Amari Watson's lines. He goes really, really hot into the right-hander, which gains him a load of time, but then he goes so deep that he can't turn in for the left-hander, and now he's under attack from Zabinski behind. But he's very, very clean down this section, so Amari Watson's, taking some alternate lines here. Fair play, whatever works. You're the guy behind the wheel, I ain't judging. As they head down this back straight, of course, DRS will be enabled after this lap. As, back focusing on Denahan now at the front. McGorgy gaining slightly on Darius Andre here. As Drs, a brilliant young hotshot of a racer, tries to flee from the front, but of course, the absolute titan that is Mccorman behind him. If there's a person you don't want chasing you down, it is Mccorman in that number 42 machine. And as they come around the penultimate corner, DRS will be enabled this time by. So they won't be enabled on the main straight, but on the run up the hill, they certainly will be. You'll be seeing the little letterbox in the rear wing open up, and suddenly cars gaining a lot of speed. Andre, their fastest lap of the race, a 137.429. He's actually pulled away a little bit now from Mccorman as they came through the final sector, through the final corner. It is a very short final sector here. It's literally 2 corners and 2 straights, so it's quite short. Now then, time for some DRS, shall we? As you can see, Mccorman, Denahan, Stevens, Crop, Quint as well, all with the DRS heading up that short blast up the hill. This track is really about lining yourself up so you can get the DRS and then get in the DRS braking zones or just diving up the inside. That's the classic overtake around here. Of course, you can pull something fantastic out of the bag if you really want to, and I won't be complaining. But that's the tried and tested route. That's the one that most drivers, I would assume, would prefer tonight. But of course, we've got 2 races to experiment with. A lot of points on offer, so who knows, and it's still very, very early into the first race as well, so I suppose we'll just have to wait and see.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to give you the same incident reports that I usually do because my replays aren't working, although I have just seen that Perseus Miram and James Lambert have had a couple of spins further back, which explains why you've been seeing some of the yellow flags popping up on your screen from time to time. Geert Vries did make it back to the pits, so he's still in the race despite having to come back all the way without a rear wing. Right, on to lap 4 we're about to head, and this is an important one because DRS is now available. So you'll see the rear wing flap open when they get into the DRS zone. Mccorman demonstrating it there. Jake Denahan also has DRS from the back of Mccorman. Does anyone get close enough into turn 1 this time? For the leaders, not quite, although Mccorman did get a heck of a lot closer. Actually went a little wide into the corner. Look at Damien Kardash up the inside of Frank Hamming, almost locking wheels. There was some slight contact there, but they get away with it with Damien Kardash now in 7th position. More cars side by side further back. Craig Patson and Adrian Faber fighting for P14. Jason Muscat is right behind them as well. He's dropped places since the start of the race and might be going back through on the inside now of Craig Patson, who's going to run wide, leave him a little bit of space, have a little twitch, get on the curb, down into the S's, the first part of the S's that we have. And Craig Patson keeps his P at 15, so Muscat out of the points for the time being. Back to the front of the field, there's the second DRS zone of the track. It's on what looks like the back straight when you look at it from a map's point of view. It's directly parallel to the start-finish straight. There's the second set of S's, and then you have the penultimate straight, which feels like it should have a DRS zone on it, but doesn't, and that sets you up for the actual last DRS zone of the lap, which is the start-finish straight.
Yeah, of course, you've got that long, long old straight coming down into turn 1 with the DRS, and well, we'll see here, Mccorman might be getting a bit of a run potentially, maybe a little bit far back. Andre actually trying to break the toe. Of course, you can't do that too many times. You'll get a slap on the wrist from the stewards. Mccorman gaining, but it's not going to be enough. Does have a little bit of a look. He's just thinking about it. But no, he commits to staying in second for the time being. And, well, Frank Hamming, meanwhile, having a look on Kardash, but it's nothing. Unfortunately, this time around. Oh, what a look. Was that a little bit of a touch there, actually, that I just saw, maybe? I'm not sure. Muscat, meanwhile, done by Van der Smissen. Down the outside, and a bit of a ding-dong behind as well with Koenig and De Zeeuw. Hamming and Kardash still going at it, coming over the top of the hill and into the twisty middle sector, this left-right section. So much fun. There's Bradfield absolutely firing around the outside there. Wow, great stuff from Bradfield on Lambert. He just shot around Lambert there with a massive slingshot move. Jamie Bradfield moving up to P24 for Smile Power Racing. Awesome stuff to get past the E-Team Brit driver. And, well, he moves up and, well, sets his sights forwards. Denahan, meanwhile, still staring at the rear wing of the old enemy, Mccorman. As they are, well, Mccorman is a lot closer to Drs Andre this time, coming around into Sector 3. just struggling a little bit on corner entry, but he's getting it up post-corner with that slipstream. So he's a lot closer this time. Dennehan's even closer to McGorgy as well. If they can stay clean out of this final corner, could be seeing some moves here potentially. Andre trying to break the toe more aggressively this time. He needs to be careful. He doesn't want to get told off, does he? DRS open. McGorgy gaining. Dennehan gaining. Does anyone go for a move up the inside? Andre pulls to the inside to try and break the toe. It's very, very close, but they all stay in a single row. One by one they go. And up the hill. Oh, look at that. Dennehan was rapid off of the corner. He's got the DRS as well. Menno, meanwhile, on the way into a bit of a wobble on the exit of the corner.
McGorgy, under attack from Jake Dennehan here on the inside. He's forced him wide, and he's going to get the line into the S's tier. And it's a TCS off all of a sudden as McGorgy relents. Big twitch from Dennehan, but he gets away with it. That was utilising the second DRS zone of the lap, or you could say the first, I suppose, since you opened the DRS before the start-finish straight. But the DRS straight between turns 3 and 4, and he made it stick. So Jake Dennehan now brings Carter McCorman a TCS off 1-2. Still a long way to go in the race. We haven't even reached the pit stop stages yet, but for the time being, it's looking very good for TCS off. Also, both Nocturne cars are in the top 5 as of now. Those two, of course, leading the team's championship after the first round, and Owen McGorgy is the only car that's separating those two teams right now. Nova Simracing in 3rd position, but he's still very close to Dennehan here. Taking a look, I think he might challenge for 2nd place again down into turn 1 this time.
Maybe we'll have to see. As it McGorgy very, very close to the back of Dennehan. Let's see if they're swapping this time around. Both have the DRS. Andre, funny enough, not toe braking for his teammate. And then McGorgy gaining. Does he go? He looks, he brakes, he's going. McGorgy to the inside. Dennehan just holds on around the outside of the corner, but McGorgy, bit of a wobble. He's there still with the DRS in the 2nd DRS range. Surely this time we'll be pulling to the inside, gaining. Dennehan goes on the defensive. McGorgy, you know you can hold it. Round the outside of this corner, tries the switchback, maybe no. Dennehan holds on to P2 for the time being. McGorgy now has his head down, and Dennehan knows that he is not going to take no for an answer. He is going to fight for that P2 and put everything on the line. And well, Tom Stevens, while they're battling, and Moritz Kropp as well, drawing ever closer to the back of this front 3. Bear in mind, these guys, they're 3 seconds ahead of everybody else. These guys keep battling. Well, we could suddenly be having a big old kerfuffle for the lead on our hands, going down this back stretch here, parallel to the front stretch, but about half the length. As they now come up to the top of the hill once again, coming round to the sector stamp mark. The sector timing line, and hard on the brakes. Tom Stevens, very interesting braking there from Tom Stevens. That's a corner that you'd expect to kind of feather the brake the whole way around, just kind of trail brake, but he's hard on the brakes and hard off, lets it coast through. Interesting driving style there as he comes in to the final corner. Let's see if anyone's making moves this time by. Again, it's very, very close from McGorgy on Dennehan. Even closer for Stevens on McGorgy. Going down once again. Let's see if anyone's moving. McGorgy's already pulling out, trying to break the toe behind as well, maybe. He decides that's a bad move because he hits the brick wall. That is the oncoming air as the car in front punches a hole in that air, creating that toe, creating that slipstream there. We can see Muscat trying to get past Faber down the outside of the straight. It's going to be who can brake later. One's on softs, one's on hards, but the one on hards actually is more confident in the braking zone. Muscat tries to get the switchback done, cannot do anything. And once again, though, still battling up the hill. Muscat giving it his absolute everything with the DRS. He knows this is his best opportunity before the tyres go side by side into turn 4. But no, it is still Faber that holds firm in that P15 position. So we're starting to get that phase in the race, Caitlin, where the soft runners know that their tyres are going to be dropping off soon, and they need to make some moves now and get in some fresh air and get some good running in before they come into the pits and lose time.
Sorry, I was just watching Murray Watson there overtaking Alexander Ragosa down into P8, down into turn 8. I didn't see the start of it, didn't see whether Ragosa maybe made a mistake or something, because that is an unusual place to make an overtake, but it worked, and that's all that matters for Amari Watson. Onto another lap we're about to go with the top 5. It's very much a chain of 5 at this point in the race, breaking away from the rest of the field. There you see it on the bottom right, battle for first, each of them separated by less than a second from the car in front of them, which is crucial because that means DRS. We have a full-on DRS train down the start-finish straight. The leader's getting very close, Denahan not wanting to attack his teammate, and they stay in the same order. So some slight team orders going on between the top 2. Of course, it's not personal. It would happen at the and a switch there. That's Ragosa getting straight back past Watson again. It's nothing personal. If the two were the other way around, then I'm sure they would be helping each other in the same way. But it's interesting because we're getting close to the pit stop stage now. So this is where Denahan could jump Drs Andre, or in fact sacrifice his own race, hold back the others, and see what happens. So there's Muscat. He's just got back past Adrian Faber. Those are the 2 drivers who were penalised last time out at Imola and lost points as a result of that, and they're having their own scrap over P15 this time out. And like I said, we're getting towards the pit stop stages now. It's still relatively early in the race. We have just under 20 of 28 laps to go, but they're going to be thinking about it now. They're going to be thinking about when they're going to come in and how they're going to do it so as to gain positions rather than lose time.
Absolutely. Drs Andre still in the way. Bit more of a gap back to Denahan this time. Gorgie, though, actually looking into the penultimate corner, trying to put the pressure on the driver in front in the TCS car. So, Drs Andre, a little bit more of a gap this time. Gorgie, again, a little bit more. It's all kind of... these guys are all following each other in this train. Funnily enough, Denahan not even thinking about making a move on his teammate there. They're all sort of in this train as that's Hamming trying to go to the inside of car dash, getting to the inside of car dash, moving through up to P7. Great move there from Frank Hamming. And those front 5, it's...
Yes. Sorry, Krop and Stevens just swapped, so the Nocturne drivers have swapped. And that's probably to give Krop a go at attacking Owen Mugorgi ahead, see what he can do, because Stevens was struggling to get close. Sorry for the slight interruption there.
No worries.
Mugorgi's going to be a tough driver to pass. He's currently got the fastest lap of the race, partly aided by the DRS and the slipstream, the double slipstream from the TC soft cars in front of him. But yeah, a slight change in tactics there from the Nocturne drivers. And that's interesting because remember, last time out at Imola, Krop was following Stevens in much the same way and just would not pass him because they didn't want to fight each other. But this time they seem to have swapped, not through fighting, but through team orders.
Yeah, indeed. Interesting stuff happening here. Lap 10 of 28 in round 2. Race 1 here of the 2022 Formula Sprint 1 GPVWC Championship. Of course, the 3rd championship in the GPVWC career ladder. Of course, we have a whole host of championships here. If you're new to GPV, it's a big old world to dive into. It seems a bit scary at first, but trust me, it really isn't that bad. Lots of names to learn, lots of teams to learn, lots of championships to learn. As Mccorman again looking to the inside of Denahan, just trying to put that pressure on, but just unable to make anything stick, really. It's looking further back. Meanwhile, Ragota trying to fight back against Amari Watson, unable to do so into turn 1. And that's Muscat as well, trading places with Patterson coming down the main straight. So there are a few moves here and there, but so far nothing major. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you all with us here tonight on the 17th of March 2022 for this brilliant pair of races that we've got for you. And of course, if you're following along, do not be afraid to keep putting your posts out on social media using the hashtag Formula Sprint 1, hashtag GPVWC. We are, of course, following your messages. We're following you along in the YouTube stream live chat as well, and it's great to see everybody getting so involved. And it's great to see a big audience as always for Formula Sprint 1. For one of the for the middle series of a championship, it's rare that you get this many viewers, so it really is special as we get an oop from Caitlin there, which means something's happened.
It means Maciej Heiler's crashed out of P13, so Heiler missing his front and rear wing. His car is crabbing along, and he's been into the wall hard. I'm afraid also our first official retirement of the race is Kasper Michalak. He's disappeared from the order. And as I said before, I unfortunately can't update you on how that's happened because I don't have replays. Back to the top 5. They're onto the slipstream straight once again, and getting closer and closer to the braking zone. I'm not sure anyone's going to be close enough for a move. Mccorman looks nervous once again. Take a little look, maybe trying to unsettle the cars ahead of them. Mc'Tyre has now officially retired from the race, and that was a lot of damage on his car, so I'm really not surprised to see that. Big shame, 2 cars out, and we saw that Mc'Tyre has, as we see Menno Klont there, fighting with Mateusz Jabinski. But yeah, we have... a retirement for Mc'Tyre. I'm getting carried away by this fight here between Klont and Zubinski. Zubinski started P12, I think. Klont started a little further ahead of him, so he's dropped behind Mateusz Zubinski at some point in the race, and now they're fighting. Back to the leaders once again. Denahan could definitely have passed. Oh, they're going to swap. They're going to swap for the lead. So Denahan... No, they don't. Okay, Denahan had a little look there. It looked as if Andre was genuinely nervous that he might have a go. So maybe they've decided that right now all bets are off. That's going to be interesting to see, because I do feel that if Denahan had really been attacking Drs Andre, he could probably have overtaken him by now. And maybe now he will.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know if there's team orders going on or not, really, because, Denahan, that was prime opportunity, but we didn't really put up much of a fight, and again, Andre didn't really put up much of a defense either. I don't know. I mean, they're both on the soft tyres, so I think at this stage it's maybe more just bring the cars home. If Denahan thinks he's got the pace, maybe he's saying, let me through, I'm the faster driver, and he's got the DRS open, but again, not going for that move. I wasn't looking at his data at the bottom right because I was seeing if he was going for the move. I'll watch here now because I want to see how early he's braking into the corners, because I get the suspicion that Denahan, he's taking it quite easy. Let's see how early he brakes. Yeah, he's got the DRS closed already going to the corner. He's taking it easy into the corners. So I assume the plan for this phase of the race is just bring the cars into the pit stop phase. Denahan does look faster in this period of the race. But, he doesn't want to cause trouble. He doesn't want his teammate to fall into trouble. He's perfectly happy, perfectly capable of keeping Mccorman, Krop and Stevens behind. So I think that's what the plan is. I'm not sure when the pit stop window will open for the soft tyres. Bahrain actually isn't a track that's too bad on the tyre where, you can actually get away with quite a lot here. It's, very, very different from Imola, despite the, the high downforce nature of the track. It's, it's interesting how it's all going to go. Denahan again, he's not as confident coming through this section. It must be said, this is where Andre seemingly gets the jump coming through that left-hander there, just getting the power down coming out of the corner as they now head down the back stretch. Anybody diving into the pits this time by, we'll see in a short moment's notice. Quint as well, I think, is actually slightly closing in P6 on this front 5, so that's interesting to see. A bit of a wobble from Drs Andre coming out of the final corner, and well, there we go. Krop in, Stevens stays out after pulling the dummy, so Krop is the first one out of that lead pack to bite the bullet. He comes in for a fresh set of rubber. He'll be going onto the hard tyres till the end of the race.
They slightly touched for second place. Sorry, Mccorman had a little look at Jake Denahan. He dinked the rear wheel. If this was real life, I'd be worried about Jake Denahan's rear tyre right now, but you don't tend to get things like that, elements like that in Factor 2. Zubinski and Klont are going to slightly touch as well. Big slide for Zubinski, good hold. And they get away with it. But, okay, right, where's Krop come out the pits? P14, and he's got traffic, so not exactly where he would have wanted to come out. Philip Koenig and Kai Sonneveld are going 3 wide now with Damien Kardash on pit exit, and there's a slight touch between those as well. Goodness me. Okie dokie. Right, back to the lead scrap. These 4 are now going to have to react to that. They've seen that Krop's been into the pits, and even though he's got traffic now, he does also have those fresher tyres. And a big slide! Andre's gone wide. So Andre loses both first and second position all by himself. That was not a planned swap. And even if it had been, it would have been way too risky. Stevens now goes through to third as well. So a big mistake from Drs Andre drops him from first place all the way down to 4th in the race. Denahan leads from Mccorman, who takes a look. Now who's going to come into the pits at the end of this lap? This is crucial stuff now. And it's at that point in the race, and and you see them snaking over towards the pits, and it's Drs Andre who dives in, unsurprisingly, after that mistake. So there you go. Big changes in this race.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. McGorgy to the outside, down into the Michael Schumacher curve. He's holding it round the outside. He's going. They're tacking wheels as they head through turn 2, but Denahan stays with him. And Owen McGorgy still side by side coming up that hill. Look at them go. Both of them. I think Denahan actually has had the DRS. He's got the inside line. McGorgy might have the switchback. Andre out on the hard tyres. It's Denahan that leads the way from McGorgy from Stevens, but that was close. Andre doesn't surprise me. He dived in. I think that mistake happened from his tyres just being done. And he comes in, so let's see what he does. Where has Andre come out? He has come out. I believe he's come out. Yeah, he has. So Andre's lost a place to Krop as well in the pits. So Krop gets the undercut on Drs Andre. Stevens, McGorgy, Denahan fighting tooth and nail as they head down. We are over halfway through in this race now. So when they go onto the hard tyres, they will be going less than half distance on those hard tyres. They can push them slightly harder. You know, this is the period of the race where I'm expecting to see them come in. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen this lap. And well, look at that. I think McGorgy a bit slow coming over the top of the hill. So Stevens now closing up to the back of the the THR driver as they come round. Not THR, apologies. Nova Simracing. THR was last season. As they come round, who's going to fake it? Who's going to make it this time into the pits? And that's and Stevens stays out. So Denahan, McGorgy come in. Stevens stays out. Both of them fake it. So Tom Stevens now leads the race. McGorgy and Denahan come in. Where do they come out in correlation to each other? Where do they come out in correlation to Krop and Andre? That's the big question. And when does Stevens come in? Stevens surely will come in next lap. So McGorgy, he's a lot way further down the pit lane. Denahan, is he going to get through him? I think he will. So Denahan is just going to snake through. Maybe. No, it's not. McGorgy gets the jump in the pit lane. I don't believe it. It's going to be
both of them.
He has, so McGorgy and Krop's jumped both of them. So Krop with a massive undercut, but McGorgy jumps Denahan in the pit lane. Krop gets past both of them. Stevens is now under a massive threat because Stevens needs to box and Krop has got a lot of pace on board that machine and the undercut has worked beautifully. So Moritz Krop is suddenly in a really, really good position. You know, he's got a few seconds to McGorgy as well. And with 12 laps left to go in this race, that is a massive gap. And with Patterson, you know, he's got Krop all over the rear of him. So Krop's pushing like crazy. Denahan, McGorgy, they've got Andre for company behind as well. So they're going to be fighting. So they're going to be wasting time. Stevens needs to come in this lap. Suddenly, Krop's got all the cards.
Moritz is how it will be racing. Here he goes to the inside of Patterson in a very fast corner. Through he goes. So nicely done. That was a really good move and a crucial one at that. McGorgy, Denahan, Andre, they're all stuck behind not just Krop. Not just Patterson. Oh yes, not just Krop, but Patterson as well. Sorry, that I was right the first time. Now we have Tom Stevens, who's stayed out another lap. He leads by 8 seconds. More than that now. Frank Hamming comes into the pit. So Murray Watson goes up to second. 11 seconds separates the leaders, which gives the impression that Stevens has got this race in the bag. Anything but. We do not know where he's going to come out of this pit in relation to Krop, McGorgy, Denahan, Andre, anyone really. We'll see. Down the straight they go. And a move looks set to... So Denahan almost making a move on McGorgy, but he backs out of that one. Craig Patterson has also been into the pits, gets out of the way of these battling drivers. And Krop now has 2 seconds advantage over McGorgy. Look at McGorgy, look at that! Under attack, into the corner. Denahan still behind him, still ahead of Andre though. After that mistake that Andre made, Darius will be absolutely kicking himself because now not only has he lost places to those other drivers, but he has not shown that he's earned the right to be ahead of his teammate. He will now have to act as the rear gunner, and that means that he has even less chance of winning this race than Jake Denahan, and that he did before. Right, here's Tom Stevens. Does he come into the pits this lap, or does he stay out and try to risk it to try to eke every bit of time out of those soft tyres? He does the latter. Tom Stevens going for a long stint And he's obviously keeping his tyres very, very well because he's still going very quickly on the track and only a couple of tenths of a second per lap slower than his rivals. But you have to remember, he is a couple of tenths of a second per lap slower than his rivals, and that is dangerous at this point in time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I honestly don't quite know what Stevens is doing, to be honest. I mean, I'm a bit kind of struggling for words because I've just got no real idea.
Because remember, we've come to conclusions about people's strategies before.
I
like
know,
last time out,
but you know,
Super League.
There's 10 laps left. You know, Crop is now well within a pit stop's range, as is all those other guys in the top battle.
Look.
So I just. Oh, as we see that is the three battle. Guys, we're talking about it, 3 wide into the corner. No, Denahan goes round. Denahan goes round. McGorgy and Andre have to go either side of him. Jake Denahan touched round. I think it was Owen McGorgy there was contact with on the outside as they tried to go 3 wide. Andre gets through McGorgy as well. It's finally come to blows after what seems like an age of it being frankly inevitable. They were so inseparable. And Denahan goes around, drops to P6, but he's not lost too much time, so I'm sure he'll be back and in this fight before you know it. Only a few seconds back. You can see him there, so he's not far back at all, and as long as his tyres are okay, he should be absolutely fine. But Stevens, I just don't know. I mean, Oh, he's in the pits.
Now, so it's time, and we're about to see whether it's paid off or not. We'll have to see a replay of the T-Stop incident a little while ago, because, or at some point, because it looked as if one of them had already got past McGorgy, and then it was McGorgy's desperation in getting back through that triggered the whole thing. But you have to say, it wasn't really McGorgy's fault. He had another car up his inside. Again, I won't come to conclusions because we haven't seen it that much. Stevens might still lead the race here. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be Crop. Crop's coming through, and Crop does retake the lead of the race. Stevens is second, so this has worked out perfectly for Nocturne. That is exactly how they wanted it. Crop first, Stevens second, and McGorgy dives past Andre. They're going to be fighting for third as we exit turn 3. Oh, and a big twitch, and they just get away with it. But we saw what happened a lap ago. Let's see if they can keep it clean this time. Up into turn 4. This time they do, because they're not going to go 3 wide. Drs Andre keeps P3. And that's the order. It's Crop, Stevens, Andre, McGorgy, and a big gap actually between the Nocturne drivers and the rest of the field. Their strategy has worked perfectly.
Yeah, great stuff there from Stevens. I mean, bear in mind half a lap ago, I wasn't sure. I mean, you know what? Fair play, I'll give them that. Again, I apparently just don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should just give up and go home. But yeah, great stuff from Stevens there to get into P2. I mean, I've got no idea how that worked out, to be honest. My brain just isn't working. Yeah, Nocturne couldn't have gone better. They've got 9 laps left. Should be pretty easy, I reckon. Onto the hard rubber they go. Andre behind, McGorgy, Denahan, they've got a bit of ground to make up. So Nocturne right now looking very pretty for this race 1-1-2. Of course, touch wood that nothing happens. I mean, the gap is significantly bigger now between them and the rest of the pack, isn't it? Yeah, that is quite a gap.
Well, one thing that I find intriguing about that is that it's not that Nocturne's strategy worked well, it's that Nocturne's strategies worked well, with a plural. And I say that because they did completely different things. Whereas Crop was one of the first to come in. He had a massive undercut. And Tom Stevens was one of the latest to come in. He used the overcut, and both of them just seemed to make it work absolutely perfectly. I think it's probably because that car is the quickest in maybe clean air. Crop didn't have clean air when he came out the pits though, did he? Because he had to pass Patterson, he had to pass someone else earlier on. I don't know, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about either, but whatever the case, they've made it work, and it's... It just shows me that those two know what they're doing. They're very young, very inexperienced, you could say. I met them at GPVWC Day at the end of last year, and I was shocked about how young they were. I always imagined Tom Stevens in particular as being, several years older than me. He certainly drives like it, but then I saw those two, and I saw them standing next to each other, and I was like, wow. So, some real youth talent coming in now. Moritz Krop leading this race from Tom Stevens, and Drs Andre, who I believe is also quite young, although I don't know for sure because I haven't met him.
I know he is, yeah. I think he's younger than I am, I think.
Yes, okay. God, so we've got teenagers 1, 2, and 3. That's crazy.
Oh, sometimes it hurts to be old Caitlin, doesn't it? I mean, it is your birthday, so I would show sympathy, but frankly, you're just in a care home at this point compared to me, aren't you? So, back to the action anyway. It's the crop from Stevens starting at lap 21. And, well, yeah, they seem to have it in the bag, don't they? I mean, I could just see them just swapping places for the rest of it, just to try and increase that gap, just work with each other.
Did you see Stevens there? Yeah. Almost going formation style.
Yeah.
Andre and Mccorman continue to do battle. Andre still P3. But yeah, Crop and Stevens almost formation style down the straight. Stevens maybe, oh look, they're almost side by side once again there through the corner. And Crop, sorry, I just saw a little bit of a, I don't mean to panic anyone, just saw a little bit of like lag or ping or something like that, or it seemed to be kind of lagging a little bit, but I don't know if that may have been on my end. Whatever the case, they still seem to be okay, thank goodness. Mccorman, fastest driver on track still. He set that time before he came into the pits, but every time he goes past the pits, his lap times are still considerably good. Even on these new tyres. His last few have been in the 1:37s, even while fighting with Drs Zone. And someone's gone missing, have they? We had a yellow flag then. It's Tom Parker. So Tom Parker appears to have DNF'd from the race. He was running about 16th or 17th in this race, and unfortunately he becomes our third retirement as he disappears and shows us some brief yellow flags.
Indeed. Well, as the race now enters its dying stages, Andre, he's creeping closer to Crop and Stevens. Of course, he's got that fresh air, that clean air in front of him, but you know, he just can't really do anything. And again, just formation style from Stevens and Crop, getting the DRS, but he doesn't want to go for the move as Denahan or Andre even. Yeah, Mccorman actually, yeah, up to P3. So he's moved past Andre down the front stretch, but it's not over yet because Andre, Mccorman, there's too many drivers going on. Mccorman all the way to the inside to try and break the toe, so Andre does not get back past Mccorman now up to P3, and I can tell you, I'm like 90% certain he's not a teenager, so the streak has been ruined, as they say. Well, he's pulled a bit of a gap already on Andre, actually, so maybe Mccorman was just being held up there, being done by like the cork in a bottle. Well, now the liquid's flowing for Mccorman, pulling away. He's already done about half a second on Drs Zone, as well as they come down the back stretch. Andre will have the DRS, but Mccorman, he, well, looking very pacey in the Nova 42 car. And as he heads... Oh, that was wide. That's very wide from Drs Zone. A bit of a wobble to get back on the circuit. So if the move wasn't already confirmed, it just has been doubly so. Drs Zone drops a second back as a result. Outside of the DRS range, Gorgie can breathe just a little bit easier now that he hasn't got Andre all in his mirrors. Tom Stevens and Crop once again coming around the corner. I think Crop did win a race in the Super Cup last year, unless I'm mistaken. So obviously this, you know, he's familiar to the top step of the podium, but I don't think he's won a race in a while. Do correct me if I'm wrong, Caitlin, but off the top of my head...
They're swapping, so Stevens goes through to the lead, and I'm surprised about that, because they didn't seem to be fighting before that, but now it looks as if they've decided this is the way around they want to be. Is Crop going to come back at him? And he's not, so they've swapped places. Although those two, remember, they're coming into this round equal on points. I don't know why that's happened there. I don't see, unless they have decided that Tom Stevens is the #1 driver at that team, but that's very early in the season to do so. I'll tell you why it is. It's because they swapped earlier on, isn't it? It's because they swapped earlier before the whole fight that saw them take the lead of the race. They swapped positions to allow Crop to have a go at Mccorman, and now that they've got through, he's decided to repay the favour and allow Tom Stevens to win the race. So that is the way round that they've decided to finish, and that is very bold there, a very, very noble, I should say, from Moritz Crop, who understands that there's a team game at play here, and he's given the win to Tom Stevens.
Well, it's not over just yet. That being said, still a few laps left to go in the first race of the evening here at round 2 of the 2022 Formula Sprint 1 GPVWC Championship here at the Bahrain International Circuit. Of course, we have a second reverse grid race for you coming up just after this one, where with a random number will be drawn out of a hat from P6 to P10, and then whatever the number is, they're on pole. Simple as that, really. Don't really need to say anything else, do I? And, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And, of course, plenty more action to come from GPVWC as well in the future. Of course, 2 weeks' time. As always, the race is 2 weeks apart. We're heading over to Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. Then we're going to Algarve, Baku, Monaco, Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in Canada. We're going to Silverstone, the Red Bull Ring, the Hungaroring, Spa, Monza, Singapore, Suzuka, Mexico as well. That should be an interesting one. And of course, ending off the season, as always, at Brazil with the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. And, well, a very exciting calendar to look forward to here in the FS1 Championship. And, well, let's just say that if this race and the previous round at Imola was anything to go off for, it's going to be a very close championship. It's going to be a very exciting championship as Van der Smissen and Arda Erkan swapping places. Erkan getting the better of the young Dutch driver. Heading into the Michael Schumacher S's, and Mimo Sonneveld gets past De Zeeuw for Valet. Of course, Valet fielding about half the grid in this championship, it would seem. They've got a lot of cars out there in FS1. There is, of course, no limit on team numbers in Formula Sprint 1. It's only when you get into the upper echelons of the GPVWC career ladder where the team really becomes a part of it. Of course, FS1, it is in fact a spec series. You can get different interiors to the cars, different steering wheels and the like, but at the end of the day, the cars are the same. It's all down to what the driver can do, what the setup's like, and well, what the team can make of the strategy. Of course, it's not like real life where spec series is all about who's got the best engineers and mechanics. You don't really get those in sim racing. It's all about how the car's set up and how good you can pedal it, really. Mike Quint, meanwhile, putting pressure on Dennehan, so Quint's massively closed that gap. Dennehan, though, has also dropped back from under, so I wonder, Caleb, if Dennehan's made a mistake somewhere.
Not that I've seen. Again, unfortunately, I don't have replays here. Looking at his times, they all appear to be... Oh, he did, actually. He lost 4 seconds a couple of laps ago. And then since then... no, wait, that was when he had the incident. That would have been when he had the incident with Magorgi. It just looks as if since then, Quint's been bringing down the gap just 10th by 10th. And now he's on the back of him, fighting for 5th place there. Just quickly, did you say, do Valet Esports have, like, a B team in the series or something? I was a little confused by what you were saying there.
No, they just have, like, 1,000,001 cars.
I mean, if you count 2 as 1,000,001.
Do they have 1,000,001 cars in this?
No, you have High Sonneveld and Remco de Zeeuw, and that's it. But anyway.
Oh, I know why. I'm mixing up with another series. You know what? Just ignore me. I'm tired.
Okay.
I've had a long day. There's another series where they're running 1,000,000. Well, Valet are in everything, aren't they? They're in every
Fair enough.
under the sun.
Sorry.
And there's another series where they've got like 5 cars on the grid or something.
I was just a little confused by that. I thought there might have been a B team out there that I hadn't noticed or something.
No, my bad.
Brief spin there for Perseus Miram. He continues in 23rd place. And it is worth continuing at this point in the race because even though you're not setting yourself up for points, what you are doing is setting yourself up for a better, better second race grid position than you would get if you just purely retired from the race after a couple of spins. It's better to start 23rd than to start, 26th or whatever. And as a result, even the drivers who have been having tough races here are continuing on. Still only 3 retirements here. That's also why we often get more retirements in the second race than the first. It's because with the second race, you don't have anything really to gain by continuing if you're guaranteed to fail to score points. But in the first race, you sort of do, depending on how many cars are still in the race. Anyway. We're heading into the latter stages now. We're on lap 26 out of 28. Tom Stevens leads this race, but only just ahead of his teammate Moritz Kropp, but we believe they are going to run in formation to the finish. I had a look at their stats from last season. They both do have victories to their name. Moritz Kropp won 2 victories, both race 2 races. Tom Stevens had a mix of both race 1 and race 2 victories, and he was one of only 2 drivers to win both races in a weekend last season. He won both races at the French round at Mangicourt, and of course started off the season perfectly by winning the first race at the San Marino round of the season, as McGorgy there laps a back marker. But yeah, Mike Quint there, still on the tail of Jake Dennehan with 2 laps to go. I think that's going to be the real fight that we've got to look for in this race. The leaders, they had their fun earlier on, but that's kind of gone now. It's kind of sorted itself out. This has been a pretty entertaining race though. I know that from a pure kind of wheel to wheel. Oh, and a big slide! Tom Stevens goes wide and they swap back. A little bit of contact there between the leaders. The Nocturne cars have swapped back again, and I think Kropp will be arguing over the radio that he deserves this win now. He's taken the lead fairly because Stevens made the mistake, and at that point Kropp says, well, I think we'd have lost too much time if I'd hung back. This is my lead now. We'll have to keep an eye on this, see if the team orders still apply or not, but that was a genuine mistake from Tom Stevens that has given Moritz Kropp the lead of the race, very much like what we saw earlier with the TCS off drivers when they were 1-2 and Darius Andre slithered wide and allowed Jake Dennehan to take the lead. It's almost like no one wants to finish 1-2 here today, Russ.
Clearly not, but we're going to have one final lap to go anyway. Moritz Kropp back into the lead of the race. Let's see if Tom Stevens is going to battle it, and what? Okay, Kropp reappears on the circuit again. Thought he was having a moment then, but clearly just the game deciding that it wants to play tricks on our mind. Yeah, we did have that earlier, but Kropp back to the lead. Stevens does like running down the middle of the road there, maybe trying to just get some cool air in the car, maybe the engine running just a tad hot, but final lap of the race here in race 1 for round 2 of the 2022 FS1 Championship here at the Bahrain International Circuit. Kropp now leading the way after that mistake from Stevens. Clont, meanwhile, trying to have a go on Muscat, his teammate for Multiforce GP, isn't able to do so. But, you know, focusing my attention back at the front, you know, who's it going to be? I'm not sure, but it's safe to say that both of these Nocturne guys have had a brilliant race. You know, the strategy has been sublime. Again, they've caught me out with it. Both of them are driven fabulously, and at the end of the day, both of them have made a mistake, and I suppose Tom Stevens' one could just be considered more tragic because it was later on.
Absolutely. Anyway, I feel like it's going to be a decision as to who wins this race now rather than a fight. But whatever the case, whoever wins, Nocturne will be the real winner here today. The Nocturne team who are going to finish 1-2 in this race. A fantastic job for 2 very young, very quick drivers. They starred last season, finishing 3rd and 5th in the championship. This year, they're already 1st and 2nd in the championship in what is proving to be the best outfit out there in the early part of the championship. Round the final corner, Moritz Kropp is going to cross the line first to take a 1-2 finish for Nocturne, and Tom Stevens will be gutted. There's the checkered flag, and it's all over us. That's the order. Owen McGorgy is going to be P3 in the end after a fight with Andre, who's out of fuel. Andre's out of fuel, and I think he crossed the line just before Dennehan and Quint. So that's the order they'll finish. So yes, Andre did cross the line. Only just though, they went either side of him just after the timing line. Dennehan 5th, Quint 6th, then it's Hamming, Watson, Kardash and Muscat, the rest of the top 10. And the remaining points paying positions go to Clont, Ragosa, Ziabinski, Faber and Patterson. And missing out on the points are Philip Koenig, Ada Erkan, Justin Van der Smiss and Remco de Joux, Gijs Sonneveld, Mike Bell, Kenneth Singleton, Perseus Miram, James Lambert, Jamie Bradfield and Gerrit de Vries, as well as the retirements. I don't know why I didn't read out the first name of everyone from P11 down to P15. Those, of course, were Menu Clont, Alexander Ragosa, Mateusz Ziabinski, Adrian Faber and Craig Patterson, claiming those points paying positions. And of course, the reverse grid pole sitter could be anyone between Quint in 6th and Muscat in 10th, depending on what number is pulled out of the virtual hat. Wow, what a finish for us.
Indeed, great stuff there from the Nocturne guys, of course. Congratulations to Menno Clon as well. What a race we've seen, race 1, and of course, If you're familiar with GPVWC Race 2, well, it just gets even more chaotic in the sprint event. There we can see the final standings. Crop from Stevens from McGorgy is your podium. Drs Andre just manages to squeeze home in P4 with no fuel in the tank. Jake Denhan is 5th with Quinn and Hamming in P6 and 7. Then it's Amari Watson, Damien Kardash and Jason Muskow rounding out the top 10 places. And a great result there for all of them. Then moving further on, we've got Menno Klont, Alexander Rogota. Great result for him in number 48 Gallery 82 car in P12. Mateo Sabinski is 13th, followed by Faber, Patterson and Koenig. Then it's Arda Erkan, Justin van der Smissen, a great result for him. Remco de Zoo and Gies Sonneveld in the one Valley Esports team that we have on the grid. Contrary to my mistake earlier, rounding out the top 20 positions. Then it's Mike Bell, Perjas Miram, Kenneth Singleton, James Lambert, Jamie Bradford and Great de Vries was our last runner after that first lap incident. Unfortunately, we did use Tom Parker, Hyler and Casper Michalak early on into the race, so a shame to lose them, but that will be that for race 1. And of course, we will now have a short break before race 2 and we'll find out who's on pole position then. And well, that's when it all kicks off.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone. GPVWC Formula Sprint 1 is about to see round 2 from Bahrain. This is race 2 of round 2, sorry. There you see the circuit, Bahrain International Circuit. We're still at Sakhir in Bahrain, and this is going to be a 19-lap race as opposed to the 28-lap race that we saw in race 1. This is a race where you don't necessarily have to make a pit stop. I feel like some drivers, I don't think anyone will, but I also don't think anyone's going to risk starting on the softs either, because in race 1, we saw that the softs could last quite a while, over half of the race, but that's just, I mean, that's 15 laps. I suppose 19 laps? Well, we'll see, won't we, Ross? Anyway, the picture, the number has been drawn, and it was 8, meaning that Amari Watson will be on pole position, and Moritz Kropp, our race 1 winner, will have to go away from 8th position on the grid. And talking of the grid, we are leaving it. So let's see the start-finish, the starting order, and see how they line up for this race. Rightio. So HGP are 1-2. Amari Watson from Frank Hamming, then it's Mike Quint for Alpha Delta and Jake Denahan for TCS Off. Recovering, of course, from that spin in race 1. Drs Andre and Owen McGorgy had a cracking fight right to the end. Tom Stevens, again, will be kicking himself, but he's got to put that behind him and look forward to this race. Moritz Kropp is P8. Then it's Damien Kardash and Jason Muscat, Manu Klont and Alexander Ragosa, P12. 13th is going to be Mateusz Siabinski, then it's Adrian Faber, so both of the PZZW cars right there. Then it's Craig Patterson and Philip Koenig. P17 will be Erda Erkan, and then it's Justin van der Smissen, Remco de Jeu and Hij Sonneveld, the 2 Ballet Esport drivers. Ross?
Yeah.
I'm joking. Mike Bell, PB Racing, and Perseus Moran Bilton. Kenneth Singleton and James Lambert, P23 and P24. Jamie Bradfield will be P25, and I couldn't find his name on the system, so I think he might be brand new. Welcome in, Jamie Bradfield. And it's Sherrit Vries, Maciej Heiler and Kasper Michalak, and the final position is not there, so we've lost a driver, and I don't know who it is, but I guess we will update you on that if we figure it out. So, tyres, let's take a look. Who's starting on what? It looks as if the top 2 have actually gone soft, and that the top driver on hards is Mike Quint in 3rd place. I think the longest we saw drivers do on soft tyres in race 1 was about...
just over half distance, yes, 16 odd laps.
16 laps? This is 19 laps, so it's doable. It's doable, but is it quicker? Is it quicker?
I don't know. I mean, obviously there'll be less fuel in the cars this time round, so the tyres will have a bit of an easier time, but you could make a stop. I mean, turning to real life, I mean, if you remember Charles Leclerc at the 2017 Formula 2 sprint race, he started on the softs, did a pit stop and won by country mile, so who frankly knows. As the last car's coming around to form the grid now, yeah, a lot of mixed strategy. I think it's going to be an interesting one, Caitlin.
Yeah, lots more reds, lots more yellows down the back of the field there. Kasper Michalak will be the last driver pulling into place there, and when he is in place we'll be ready to get going. It's Tom Parker who's missing, so Parker, I think he did seem to just disappear from race 1. I wonder whether he had connection issues, and that's why he's not here for race 2. Rightio, let's look for the lights. Remember, Tom Stevens got an awful start for race 1 from that pole position spot. Will Amari Watson have better luck? We won't have to wait long to find out. Amari Watson puts the power down, we go! And he doesn't get a great start. It's better than Stevens was. They're side by side, the HGP Motorsports cars. Quint looking all over the rear and into turn 1. Slight touching further back. And it's Amari Watson who leads us out of turn 2. And a spin for one of the TCS off cars.
Yeah, it was one of the Nocturne cars, I believe that was, that went off there. And yeah, Tom Stevens from... wherever he was on the grid, I'm not sure, but he finished second last race. He goes round at turn 1 and drops down another car off the side of the road there. But it is Watson that leads from Hamming as they head through this twisty section for the first time. Quint holding strong in 3rd place. It's all a bit chaotic at the start of race 2 here. 19 laps of this to enjoy, ladies and gentlemen, so sit tight and hold on to your hats as we head down into turn 10. There's a car without a rear wing there. I think that's Faber.
Philip Koenig.
Oh, it's Koenig, yeah, Philip Koenig even without a rear wing. as he heads down into turn 9 and 10. Oh, and he's holding up cars. Bradfield getting held up behind. He's trying to get out of the way, and he's spinning almost into cars on the inside as well. Oh dearie me. And as we start again, let's watch the replay. So this is Tom Stevens. Just gets touched there on the outside, and then just a whack from the outside and gets shunted round. Where was the incident? So that's just what happened to Tom Stevens. And up ahead, was there another incident? There must have been another incident a bit further ahead. Here is the replay of Koenig. And, oh, wow. So he just gets a car run into the back of him completely. Wow, that's a very strange incident there for Philip Koenig. Big shame for him, but he's holding strong for the time being. Anyway, Watson pulled a bit of a gap. Quint close to Hamming. And is that Dennehan having a look there on Mike Quint? He doesn't go for the move, but just letting him know he's there. There's Muscat on Clont. Clont firmly shuts the door. So here we go. It's all kicking off here in race 2 and all getting very exciting. Tom Stevens already up to P20 after spinning on the worst lap. Stevens flying and determined to get a result of some sort after that incident. And as he heads up that second straight up the big hill, he is a man determined. Dennehan, meanwhile, already up to 4th. Andre already up to 5th. And those two, again, will be looking for some strong results in this race after they seemingly dropped off towards the latter phases of race 1. But they were running pretty strong in those first stints. And looks like they've gone for split strategy as well. So Dennehan's on the softs. And Andre is on the hards, so that's interesting. So TCS off. They've divided themselves there. Whether that's a personal or a team decision, I'm not sure. But, well, that's interesting. So we'll see who comes out trumps there. But, yeah, Dennehan on the softs and Andre on the hards.
Also, James Lambert had a spin on that first lap as well, just as he did in race 1. And Philip Koenig has also made it back to the pits. I had a look back at the Stevens incident because I do have replays now. I can confirm that there was no one driver who spun him around. He was sandwiched between 2 or 3 other drivers. And really, I'd say that's just a racing incident on the first lap. Let's look at Dennehan now. This is for 3rd place. Slipstreaming Mike Quint. He's going to the inside line and on different tyres. I think this is going to be a successful move. Krop and Kardash also side by side in the background. Dennehan does take 3rd, and Krop is fended off by Kardash there down into turn 2. So that is how those two come out of it. Up towards turn 3 now, turn 4, sorry. And another little look there. Around the outside goes Krop. Oh, they almost lock wheels. Krop's going to have to dip wheels into the gravel. And he's still there, but a little too far back. That's McGorgy, sorry, attempting to get past Krop actually on the outside line, because Krop lost a little bit of time while fighting with Kardash, lost a little bit of momentum and allowed McGorgy to get up alongside him. But anyway, so after a chaotic first lap, another chaotic first lap, the order is Watson, Hamming, Dennehan, Quint, Andre, the top 5. And in the background, someone else went a little bit sideways there. I think it was Heist Stunnerveld. And the race continues.
Indeed. Oh, there's a big kerfuffle of cars going on here as Stevens slides through. Oh, that was a touch between Sonneveld and Heiler there. Got a bit tight indeed. Both managing to keep going. Hamming still trailing Amari Watson for the time being. Dennehan is a little under a second behind as I believe Zabinski gets through on Clont there. And well, they're now onto the main straight. Let's focus on the action at the front. Hamming trying to break the toe from Dennehan, who's just set the fastest lap of the race. All 3 of the front runners on that soft rubber. Andre struggling, it would seem, on the hards. Oh, I'm really not sure what's going to happen this early on in the race. Kardash, meanwhile, looking for moves on Crops. Muscat looking for move on Zabinski. There is drivers trying to swap places absolutely everywhere. I'm struggling to keep track of it all, to be honest. It's so chaotic as per normal. And there is Zabinski and Muscat having a bit of a ding-dong. And, well, through they go. And, well, that was pretty easy for Zabinski. But, oh, it's all very, very close this early on in the race. And that's a dive by Ragota into the hairpin. Very late move by Ragota on the hard tyres. That was Clont, it was on, I believe. No, yeah, it was Clont. And that's Remco de Zoo off the track In the meanwhile, Ragotza looks like he's made the move stick on Klont as well, which is great for him. And well, here's a replay of Dazoo as they head into... Oh, just lost the rear. Oh, and they actually... Oh, hello. Yeah, okay, that's an interesting incident.
Jamie Bradfield getting involved.
So Bradfield, 2 separate incidents there. So 2 drivers just carrying too much speed into the corner and going round. Look how close Dennehan is this time to Hamming. There's got to be a move this time, surely. I mean, they're basically climbing over the back of each other, aren't they? Look, let's on board with Dennehan. Watch this. DRS open. Hamming is already all the way to the inside. He's racing smart. But, you know, he's got the DRS. You can't do anything about it. And he's pulling all the way to the inside. He's putting up as much of a fight as he can. And he's going to try and squeeze Dennehan on the entry to the corner as well. Dennehan has the inside, but it will be on Hamming with the switchback, but Dennehan makes it stick for the time being as there's a 4-car way move going on further down the pack as well. Dennehan looks like he's going to hold on to P2. Dennehan moves through, now sets his eyes to Amari Watson. Nice little move there from Dennehan with the DRS, almost too easy. Let's see how Hamming responds.
And once again, it's the battle of the 3-lettered teams, because Andre got past Quint a couple of laps ago, so now it's HGP, TCS, HGP, TCS in the order, with Mike Quint best of the rest in 5th position, and the Nocturne drivers a little further back, Crop in P6, and Stevens, let's see where Stevens has made his way to. He's 16th, so he's gained 4 more positions since we saw him at the end of that opening lap of the race. Dennehan now right on the back of Watson. I feel like there's going to be another attempt going down the start-finish straight this next time around. Of course, he won't want to pass him into the final corner because then he won't get the DRS and Watson will be able to sail straight back past him. He'll want to do it on the straight. Let's see. Towards the straight we go. DRS will be available as it has been for a couple of laps now. Philip Koenig, meanwhile, has now retired from the race. He's become our first retirement. Jamie Bradfield is our second retirement. Here we go. In the slipstream, Watson, Dennehan, Hamming, they're all there. Andre is too far back for the DRS, so it's just the top 3 fighting for it. Dennehan slides through on the outside line. Watson keeps his nose in, forces him to fight for it, but another good move. That's exactly what Dennehan did to Hamming a lap ago. He says, well, I know it works, so I'm going to do it again. And through he goes. Jake Dennehan leads the race. Amari Watson, too far back to attack again into the next heavy braking zone. And TCS off cars are sandwiching the 2 HGP racing cars at this point in time. Mateusz Jabinski just passed Alexander Ragosa for P10 up into P4 as up into turn 4 as well. And who? Oh, and he's gone. Ragosa, Jabinski disappeared and reappeared facing backwards in the gravel there. I feel like there may have been a connection issue because I didn't see him go off. No, looking at the replay, sorry, there was a connection issue. He had a brief lag spike and then reappeared and spun, and I feel like that was not Mateusz Jabinski's fault there, because look at this. Pop goes the weasel, and off he goes.
Yeah, that's a shame, but again, it's part of what happens in sim racing. Your lag spikes disconnect, they're all part and parcel. And Dennehan putting a little bit of a gap on Amari Watson so far as we are approaching lap 7. But it shouldn't be close enough for Watson to challenge. Bit of a wobble as well. And ooh. Okay, just bluffing. Got a bit interesting there. I thought they were about to dive into the pits. They probably will have to pick, 'cause they are on the soft tyres.
No. What he did was, I think he got a little twitchy in the corner, a little wide, and I think that was just him trying to break the toe of the car behind. Muscat side by side with Kardash there. P8, Muscat is ahead at the time being. But yeah, he was just trying to make sure that Watson wasn't going to fly straight past him in a straight line, as Dennehan had done to Watson 2 laps ago. And still the gap between the 2 of them, well, it was half a second. It's now come out to about 7 tenths in the first sector. Side by side, Tom Stevens makes up another place and leaves his victim in the dust. Justin van der Smissen has a big slide and loses 2 more places. And that's what happens when you mess with Tom Stevens. I'm afraid he is extremely good. And he gets through into 13th position now. Craig Patton is ahead of him. Got a brief yellow flag further back. And I don't see anyone having a spin or anything like that, so maybe just a brief off, but anyway. So yeah, Tom Stevens definitely in the hunt for points still, probably still in the hunt for a top 10 position. He's coming through the pack like a hot knife through butter, but he's being slowed down by every new car that he has to pass. Towards the end of another lap, Denahan this time doesn't go quite as... Yes, he does go just as defensive, all the way over, almost into the pit lane. Forces Watson and Hanning to follow him, and even with the DRS open on the back of those HGP Motorsports cars, Jake Denahan comfortably has the lead. Moritz Kropp takes a look at Mike Quinn in 5th position. Now, I find it interesting how Kropp's elected to start on the soft tyres here. Remember, he and Tom Stevens struggled to get through the pack as Stevens there goes into P12. But yeah, he and Tom Stevens struggled to come through the pack in race 2 in Imola after electing to start on the hard compound tyre. Do you reckon they've maybe learnt from that? Maybe learnt that track position is crucial. You've got to make the positions as quickly as you can and fend off your opponents in the later stages. And that's why they're on soft here rather than hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we've been seeing so far this year in GPVWC that strategy, it's maybe not quite what I expect anyway. You know, so it's interesting how this is going to all play out. I'm really not sure, to be honest. I mean, the soft runners, you know, track position, you know, surely you'd be thinking that's the better one to have in the sprint race, but they might make it work. Who knows? They will probably need to box, I reckon, unless someone really fancies taking it to the end. I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, as we're coming up to lap 9 of 19, nearly halfway through this race, let's see if Denahan pulls the same shenanigans as last time, and what do you know? Yes, he does. And again, just a bluff into the pit lane, trying to break the toe on the exit of the corner as well. And he'll be, well, to be fair, he'll be clearing up a nice little line into the pit lane, so he won't have any marbles on his tyres on the way into the pit lane, which should mean he's less likely to lock up in theory. Who knows? I'm just trying to make up some reason to why he's doing that. He's just trying to break the toe, really, isn't he? He's just trying to play some mind games, break the toe, see what he can do to Watson and Hamming behind. Meanwhile, further back, Darius Andre under attack from Mike Quint and Patterson and Zabinski. Oh no! Craig Patterson, a 360, 10 out of 10 for style, but 1 out of 10 for overtaking as he loses a few places. They must have been knocking wheels like crazy coming into turn 2. So let's have a look on board with Patterson. So he's on the brakes into turn 1. Oh, there it goes to the outside. Gets a little bit crossed up. Oh, just loses it on himself. Just goes round by himself, just gives it a boot for him, round he goes. Easily done, if a bit embarrassing. Craig Patterson, now we've got a bit of work to do.
Good recovery from Patterson, although he's outside of the points now. Also good avoidance from Ada Erkan. Did you see how close he got to the front wing of that car? Adrian Faber has, well, he seemed to lose all drive coming out the final corner there. That's why you saw the yellows. I think he had a spin, and that's why he was recovering. Yes, he did. So that's why Adrian Faber is now a long way behind the pack, I'm afraid to say. He touched the wall as well, so I think he's going to have even more issues to contend with in that one. No points today for Adrian Faber by the looks of things. Right, up the front again. Denahan, he's not getting away, is he? But he's doing enough to fend off those HGP cars. The way he sailed past both of them on the straight, one after the other, and the way that they haven't been able to do the same to him shows me that maybe he's running considerably more wing than, or less wing than the HGP cars. But even with that setup disparity, he's still doing a fantastic job. Defending well, he was attacking well earlier. Ada Erkan there, losing out even more, because even though Ada did make a really good defensive, or not defensive, but a really good avoidance.
Oh! That's a big wobble from Justin Van der Smissen there. Well held coming through turn 4. Sorry to interrupt you, Kane. It looked like he was going to go backwards over front, but managed to hold on.
It's okay. Also, Tom Stevens there has got up. Sorry, no, he was in 12th place, wasn't he? I'm looking at Clont versus Ragosa up in front of them. They've been swapping places a couple of times. So, we're now over halfway into this race. I don't think the soft tyre runners are going to be coming into the pit. Surely they've got to hang it out for the whole race. A long stint on the softs, just as we saw in the Super League race the other day. Jake Dennehan leads this race, followed by Amari Watson, Frank Hamming, then Darius Andre, with the top three separated by, they're all in the DRS range of the car in front of them. There you see them again. You're actually looking at Moritz Kropp now. He's in 6th position on the back of Mike Quint and getting closer and closer. Quint's been very quiet today, hasn't he? He's been on the back of a TCS off kart for quite a long time, if you count this race plus the end of the first race. But he's kind of silently picking up a big barrel of points today as it currently stands, but he may have to get a little less silent if Moritz Kropp launches an attack in a bit. There's Maciej Heiler recovering from a DNF in the first race, standing in for Isaac Morris. Still has Morris's helmet and name written on the side of the car. Taking a look to the inside, and that's Craig Patterson recovering from his spin just in front. And Patterson's spin, unfortunately, self-induced, but it's very easy to do because it's actually a lot bumpier than it looks on the outside of turn 2 there. If you put the power down, sometimes the rear of the car just does not like it. It's also very slick out there because you haven't had the rubber being put into the track, so you can often slide the car out. Rightio, towards the end of another lap of racing, Jake Dennehan has recently set another fastest lap of the race. Sorry, no, he got close to the fastest lap of the race, but actually he's been consistently. Actually, this is some consistency for Jake Dennehan. He's been in the 137s every single lap of this race, except the first lap, and he crosses the line. He sets another 137. That's a 137.5 this time, and he is leading this race with metronomic precision ahead of the 2 HGPs at this point in time.
Indeed. Well, as the race starts to enter its final phases, I'm still got my eyes on these soft shed runners and what they're doing. Are they going to come into the pits or not? I really don't know, Caitlin. I mean, it's going to be interesting if they decide to go to the end on very worn soft. Oh my goodness! Justin van der Smeesen and Guy Sonneveld getting a little bit wobbly coming out of the Michael Schumacher curve down at turn 1. Wow, there's a lot of drivers who don't really want to be going straight tonight, do they? As they head around, of course, in the sunny desert of the Bahrain International Circuit. Of course, we are losing the live weather as always. This is what the weather was like at the Bahrain International Circuit a few hours ago. Let's follow around. So dismissant to the inside. And a bit of a touch already from Sonneveld. So they're already banging wheels. And then Sonneveld just puts his throttle down. Coming out of turn 1 on the Astro. Kicks out the rear. And wow, that's a big moment indeed. Amari Watson still within DRS range. Was that a little bit of smoke I saw? They're getting kicked up from the back of Dennehan's car. I'm not sure. I think it may have been. As they head around the final corner. Still Dennehan from Watson from Hamming. And well, to be fair, the boys in 2nd and 3rd for HGP have done a phenomenal job. But so has Dennehan out the front. But still a long way left to go in this race. Lap 13 of 19. Andre will probably start to gain as well on the hard tyres in a few laps' time. It's all up in the air. Who was that out to the side of the road that I just saw? Was that Faber, maybe? I think I just saw parked on the side of the road. Well, I don't know what that's for, but hopefully they can get going again as Ragota sideways as well, coming out of the first corner. Anybody else fancy a bit of power drifting as he then takes a liberal go at the track limits on the inside there, still in the slipstream of Stevens to the inside, to the outside. Alexander Ragota, where does he go? Nobody knows. He tries to switch back. He is on the hard tyres that should be starting to come good, but the Gallery 82 driver cannot do anything so far. Tom Stevens maintains that P11. But yeah, Alexander... Oh, sorry, Caitlin.
Sorry, I thought you stopped. Gijs Sonneveld has just had a spin and retired, so he was, of course, fighting very, very hard with a bunch of others, and it's come unstuck for him. So 25 drivers remaining in this race now, and plenty of the drivers further back making pit stops as well. and I think it's a bit late to see how that works out for them, but I'll keep half an eye on what's going on down there. Here's Tom Stevens, still recovering, P11 now. He is almost definitely going to break into the top 10 before the end of the race, I would say, unless his rear tyres have taken too much of a beating from that spin on the first lap. It was a relatively low speed spin though. I think he should be okay. So we got 5 laps to go now. I think we're going to have 5 laps to go, including the lap that they're about to start. And Hamming and Watson have just swapped down into turn 1. So Hamming has now gone up into P2, and he is going to have a go at seeing if he can stick with Jake Dennehan. Dennehan has broken out of the DRS range now of Hamming and Watson, but that's the order they're in now, as Erkan fights further back with Matej Siabinski. That's for P13, bit of a lockup, and gets the move done. But yeah, it's a fascinating team strategy. It's awesome to see how many of the teams have found themselves running together out there on the track today. Because we always see the Multiforce drivers together, and that's been no different really. But today we also had TCS off, cooperating, HGP, earlier of course Nocturne, who, whoa, that's a lag spike, and that's going to be an incident. And that is very disappointing, because Arda Erkan and Matej Siabinski did nothing wrong there. It's purely lag. And wasn't Siabinski the driver who had a lag spike earlier on as well? So I think so, yeah. I think Siabinski's having some problems with his ping out there, or whatever's causing that. I'm not very technical, I don't know. He might want to think about retiring that car now, because it could be a hazard for other drivers. And Arda Erkan, unfortunately, will agree, because he is out of this race.
Yeah, that was a big old incident. 5 laps left to go here at the Bahrain International Circuit for round 2 and race 2 of the GPVWC Formula Sprint 1 Championship. Here, of course, live on YouTube. And if you are watching along on YouTube and you haven't already, please do consider hitting that subscribe and like buttons. It is greatly appreciated. And of course, if you're new, hello and welcome. It is a pleasure to be bringing you the action here from virtual Bahrain. And, 24 drivers left in this race here in virtual Bahrain, with Dennehan leading the way, but my eyes are currently firmly fixed on Drs Andre, because he's the driver on the hard tyres. He's the driver that's going to be coming good soon, I believe. We'll just have to wait and see. And, as Tom Stevens chasing down Menno Kont for that top 10 position. And, we'll just have to look and see if he can get there coming into turn 10.
By the way, Justin Van der Smissen is also out of the race now, because that accident that I told you about earlier on with Hai Sonneveld, where he spun out at the final corner, it was actually because he'd managed to collide with both of the Santon Motorsports cars. So both the Santon Motorsports cars had to come into the pits. Van der Smissen never emerged again, and now we're seeing a replay of Murray Watson here, and what's this going to be of? Okay, apparently the replay is not particularly working right now. Oh, there we go. Oh, looks as if he's been off to the inside there. Yes. Oh, so Watson's had a slide. Watson, he's dropped to 6th. So I've just seen that. Watson was, of course, running in 3rd place. That's now Drs Andre. Watson is all the way down to 6th position. Frank Hamming's now right on the back of Jake Dennehan.
What's going on?
Back. He's caught 0.6 of a second from last time I looked at that. Now look at Mike Quint. He's under pressure from Moritz Kropp, the winner of race 1. Someone else has had a spin, I think, because Tom Stevens is now up into 10th place, and there was a brief yellow flag. This is crazy stuff. Kropp's now alongside Mike Quint. He's going to have to give way into the corner. But it's now Dennehan, Hamming, Andre, Quint, Kropp, Watson. More yellow flags, and I'll take a quick look to see who that might be. Goodness, yeah. So it's all become very, very close. All of a sudden, Dennehan and Hamming are going to fight for this victory.
They are indeed. A few laps left to go on the clock, and we're just going to have to wait and see. And Andre as well. Is Andre going to get involved? I'm not sure. It's all action stations here late on in Bahrain. Hamming going to do his teammate proud, I'm sure, with Watson down to P6 and what is probably some very cooked tyres. And what is Dennehan doing?
What? Slide there. I think he had a slide and then turned it into...
I'm not sure if that was a slider or if he was trying to break the toe, but either way, he's ended up with 2 wheels off on the inside of the track. I've got no words. And now he's trying to break the toe and he's running onto the grass in the process. That is, for me, the signs of a desperate man on worn tyres, and this is the signs of a fast man on potentially fresher rubber. Hamming not quite able to get through, but he will, of course, have the DRS up the second straight. As they go, coming out of turn 3. Look at that again. Denhan all the way to the inside of the track. He is defending like an absolute madman out there. But it seems to be working because he's holding on to P1.
We talk about body language when we talk about when we talk about reading other people, but you can also read the body language of cars in motor races. Here you can tell that Jake Denhan absolutely knows that Frank Hamming is there. He knows that Hamming has the upper hand and the faster car at this point in time, and he is defending for his life. Big twitch down into the braking zone at turn 10. Jake Denhan keeps it under control, leads this race. Still, we get the DRS active. Andre is bringing that gap down. It's too little too late unless these two really hold each other up. And another big twitch. Denhan had a twitch. Frank Hamming had an all-wheel drift on the entry to the corner. I think Hamming got away with it a bit better. They both lost several tenths of a second in that. Now we come down the penultimate straight. Once again, Denhan twitches his way over to the right-hand side of the road. We're going to have 2 more laps to compete after this one, and it could go either way or neither way. Out of the final corner, twitch from Hamming, and it's DRS time. Look at this.
Indeed, here goes Frank Hamming, Denhan all the way to the inside of the circuit. Hamming, oh, look at the run he's getting. Denhan even further to the inside. There goes Hamming to the outside. Who's going to be later on the brakes? Into turn 1. It is Hamming who takes the lead of the race, but is Denhan done just yet? I do not think so, as they exit turn 3. All the way to the inside goes Hamming. He's taking a look at Denhan's. Oh, and they're sweeping this way and that way. Does Denhan go inside or out? He chooses out. Look at the state of those front tyres. They are absolutely melted. You can see the graining from a mile away, but it's Frank Hamming on the penultimate lap of the race who takes the lead, and all the while Andre's closing. I don't know if it's enough, but if these two keep fighting, he might be on the tail end of it. There is further back Tom Stevens in P10. My goodness me, Frank Hamming, oh, he chose his moment, didn't he? Up into the lead of the race, and he's not got long left to hold on to it.
Then for Carrot de Vries, there goes his last chance of points, I think. He's going 3 wide on the straight now with James Lambert and someone else who I think is a lap down. Anyway, Darius Andre there, now fending off Mike Quint and Moritz Kropp. Owen McGorgy passed Amari Watson on that last lap, so Watson from pole position has been dropping and dropping after a couple of mistakes that we saw him make a little while ago. We're heading towards, and there is... Oh, it's Andre! Andre's round! So Darius Andre spins from 3rd position. Mike Quint is up onto the podium in the Alpha Delta racing car. Andre is 6th.
Well, more late drama here in Bahrain. So the man who we thought could be challenging the two up the front on that hard compound drops down to 6th place. Now it is really Hamming versus Denhan. Now it really is the last lap of the race, and it looks like Hamming may possibly have it in the bag. McGorgy having a go! And behind Andre, big wobble again. Darius Andre, I think that was, he was having a big push and just facing again. He's all the way to the inside, 3 wide on the run into turn 4. That can't work. No, it does not. They all back off quite sensibly. In the end, Amari Watson still hunting for places. Denhan has dropped. Denhan's dropping massively. Denhan's gone round. I think Denhan's gone round, surely.
Yes, he has. So both TTS off cars make mistakes in the final stages, and so has... Who's that? Oh wait, that's a lap car. My apologies. There was a car also facing backwards as Denhan recovered from his spin, and I think no, they were okay. So Quint there gets through. He's 2nd. Moritz Kropp is 3rd, and Frank Hamming is going to win the race.
Indeed, he is. What a late turn of events for Frank Hamming, who has been superb running in those podium places, and when others have stumbled, he has held on and will take a fitting victory. Can Kropp close in on Quint as they head down the penultimate straight? I don't think so. I think Quint is just going to hold on But focusing our attention to the front once again, rounding the final corner, it's Frank Hamming who's been superb to hold on and takes the victory in race 2 here in Bahrain. The checkered flag flies as he weaves left and right. Quint comes home in P2 with Krop at P3. McGorgy just misses out P4. Drs Andre just holds on to P5. From Amar, or P6 even from Watson after Dennehan comes home in 5th. Muscat is 8th, Kardash 9th. Stevens manages to work his way up to 10th after that first lap incident. But Frank Hamming, he was looking perilous all race long. Sitting there waiting, biding his time, and finally, after lap, the opportunity arose. Consistency, as I said at the start of the broadcast, is king here at Bahrain, and that is what Hamming put on display. He is on board with Drs Andre on the last lap. Did he make another mistake? Oh, wow!
This was his spin. So
this was his spin, my apologies. So that's what happened with Andre.
It's a very slippery section of track out there. No one uses it. It's not the track, for that matter. No one uses it, and as a result, it is very, and this is Dennehan. Watch this, into the S's, and the rear breaks away. Now you're going to see the back marker there is going to go for a spin as well. And I initially thought that was Quint, because of course it was Quint's teammate, his Alpha Delta teammate, who is Kenneth Singleton. And I thought that Quint had gone around too, but luckily Quint had not. He stayed in 2nd position. But both of the TCS off cars, they're losing control and losing what looked set to be a surefire podium. I think they were going to be 2nd and 3rd at the end of that, or at least 2nd and 4th. But what a drive there from Frank Hamming, a great victory. He was one of the 3 drivers who came into this round equal on points with the two with Stevens and Krop, the 2 Nocturne cars. I'm not sure how the points look after this, because I haven't been doing the calculations live, but like I said, it is way too early in the season to be talking about that. My driver of the day is Moritz Krop, because even though he wasn't the fastest in either of the races, he kept his nose clean, didn't make anywhere near as many mistakes as some of the drivers around him. He's doing donuts there on the way into the pits, but picked up places simply as a result of being solid as a rock. And Moritz Krop, I think, deserves his double podium and, of course, his race 1 win.
Yeah, great job from all of the drivers out there, as always. A fantastic evening's worth of racing. I mean, what more could you expect here at GPVWC? Fantastic stuff from all of the drivers. And, of course, same time, same place in 2 weeks' time, we're heading down under as we head for the if I could speak English, that would be nice. The Albert Park Circuit and the Australian Grand Prix. And we have, of course, not quite done here today. Still got a few interviews, perhaps slide in with a few of our race-winning drivers. We'll have to wait and see who's down for one, of course, as such is the case with sim racing. It's a lot less structured than real motorsport. You kind of don't really get to choose who you interview. It's who really wants one at the end of the day. So we'll have some of those now, but again, to conclude what Kanan said, what a great day worth of racing.
Okie dokie, let's talk to we've got our race 1 winner, Moritz Krop. There we go. Moritz, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Jolly good. So, after we spoke to you last time out, you were absolutely thrilled, over the moon, and I'm sure you are as well today, because a race win and a 3rd place. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm literally shaking.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row now. How does this one compare to San Marino?
Well, I felt a lot more confident than in San Marino. I don't know, the car just clicked more for me, and I don't know, we got also a little bit more help from Tom Ely this time, and from all the boys that put in loads of work, loads of work the whole 2 weeks. Yeah, just being very grateful, honestly.
Fantastic stuff. So talk us through that race 1 there. It was close between you and your teammate, and you swapped 3 times. What was going on behind the scenes there?
So yeah, like, I don't know, we had difficult starts, difficult beginning to the race. We fell back quite a lot in race 1. Don't know why, actually. I don't know. We just had bad starts. We have to look over that. But I don't know. We just managed it well. Tom made a little mistake, and we decided to not lose too much time. That we just swap around and go from there. And we just decided to make the undercut, to make the other people pit, which worked out brilliantly. Tom went longer. I don't know. I didn't really. I don't know. He just got held up, and I got in front, and then yeah, my tires were gone. So I don't know. He just went past and dragged me along for a little, and then I don't know, he for no reason just went deep or whatever. I don't know, and I managed to get past again, and yeah.
Was he asking to be let back through, or was he like, well, I made the mistake, fair game?
Well, I don't know yet. I don't really know yet. So
okay.
Yeah.
Race 2, coming through from 8th on the grid to P3. How did you manage that?
So I was struggling a little bit in race 1 with my softs. That's why we pitted earlier. And I don't know, I just wanted to save them a lot more and use them at the end when, to actually compete against the medium runners, which actually worked out very, very well because I went faster as we got closer to the end. And yeah, just, tire saving, trying to make a move here and there, just preserving the tires, looking after them. And yeah, I mean, I just got lucky again with all the crashes and incidents happening. That got me up to P3. Yeah, P3. Yeah. That's race 2.
Fantastic. And the only thing unfortunate about that is you're still too young for champagne. Anyway, thank you very much for talking to us, Moritz, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okie dokie. Ross, who would you like to talk to next? It's up to you.
I mean, we've got 2 of them. Let's grab Owen. Go on, let's get some drivers in here. Let's get some drivers' perspective on the situation. Owen McGorgy, everybody, for course. One of the many drivers we've got out on track. Hello, Owen. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Considering where I was in the second race, I'm surprised that I'm 4th. But yeah.
It was a bit of an eventful second race, I think, for everyone, not just you. But yeah, why don't you just run us through your night's racing? I mean, I'd say it's a fairly successful night. I mean, you might have different opinions to me. What am I but just some guy who shouts rubbish about racing cars?
I've got to be honest. I wasn't expected to be anywhere near where I was. I was expected to be probably around 10th. I didn't feel I had the pace, and I probably could have got pole, but I messed up basically all of my laps. But yeah, race 1, I got a brilliant start, which definitely helped, and then nothing really happened until when everyone boxed, and then Darius decided that he wanted to make it 3 wide, which messed us up when Tom was overcutting us, and then yeah, the Nocturnes just ran away. I was catching and staying at their pace, but yeah, I just couldn't go any quicker, really.
Well, that's fair enough, but at the end of the day, it's still some good results. And of course, Bahrain, it's a tricky circuit, and moving forward to Albert Park in 2 weeks' time, do you think that's maybe going to fare a little bit better down under?
100%, yes. The track, the mod looks absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to drive it. I'll probably do some laps tonight. So hopefully that goes well. And then, well, the next 3 races after that, they're brilliant tracks, and I hope I could do well and get at least a couple wins.
Well, awesome stuff. Thanks for joining us, Owen, and some good results out there tonight, so well done.
Cheers.
That was Owen McGorgy of Nova, as Caitlin finally confirmed for me at the end. That's my brain stopped working.
That's okay. Yeah, so Owen was 3rd and 4th in his races. So if we had one team who really won today, it was not THR. They've changed. It's Nocturne. Nocturne, of course, 1-2 in race 1, and they were on the podium in race 2 as well. And heavily involved in that team is Toby Davis, who is with us now. Toby, you must be over the moon as well.
Absolutely over the moon. I was called in last minute to do some engineering for the boys tonight. So yeah, very grateful to be part of 2 teams in GPV these days, and the Nocturne boys are really put on a show this season, even when doing their own thing and working on their own setups and that sort of thing. You know, they've really come to the fore and put the effort in, ground away, and it's showing in the results. You know, the strategy worked really well, particularly in race 1, and I think it's boding well, shall we say, for the rest of the season. But we don't count our lucky chickens this early.
So how did that happen then? Because both of them went for wildly different strategies, and the race just fell into your lap.
So Moritz was always going to pit a little bit earlier, but we found a gap that he could get into, get some clean air away from the dirty air, and a little bit of slipstream off someone who was on old mediums, and that really worked well. So he was able to pull that gap whilst there was some battling going on, and then Tom's better tyre wear enabled him to extend the stint whilst they were battling back in the pack. So it worked in our favour in both ways, really. And as you can see from the results, you know, we ended up with a 1-2 in race 1, which is the ideal result. It was looking a bit sketchy at the end of lap 1, being in 4th and 5th, but we were in that DRS train. We knew we didn't have to make any moves that early, and we could just sit there and then let the strategy work itself out. So over the moon with that. And then of course, we did just as good a job in race 2, really, from my point of view.
Yeah, of course, you're unlucky to have Stevens being involved in that accident at turn 1. Just quickly, before we move on from race 1, you must have had your heart in your mouth when they swapped like that. Several times they swapped. What if
the first one was planned. Sorry, go on.
No, I was literally just setting up.
The first one was planned, Caitlin. We noticed that Owen was catching us, and Tom obviously had the fresher tyres, and then Tom sort of was like in the middle of doing something, and he just sort of braked a bit late, and I don't really know what he was doing, but he made the mistake then. And of course, as soon as you make a mistake with teammates, the person who overtakes you, then it's their race, they're entitled to that race. So it wasn't planned to swap them back, but Moritz ended up taking the victory. It's one of those things. We did discuss it. We discussed saying, you know, do we swap back, this and that, and then it sort of just happened anyway. So took the decision out of my hands, really.
No, it's not about me, but I do like how you go about team orders in your team. Actually, it's very kind of respectful, very kind of you all know what you're doing before the race, and your drivers do it without too much fuss. We'll see if that holds up towards the end of the season, if they're fighting for the championship. But for now, it's working fantastically well for you. So congratulations.
Thank you, Caitlin.
And
thank you both. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Caitlin. Yeah, we're doing well, but there's a long way to go.
Okie dokie. Good luck in the future.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that's all we got time for today. But thank you very much to Ross McIntyre. It's always so much fun to commentate with you. Thank you as well to Szymon Frelik, our cameraman and broadcast director, as well as everyone else who gets involved with the GPVWC broadcast behind the scenes. Jack Mayer, of course, running the whole broadcast team and getting us all set up every week. Thank you as well to you for watching along, and I hope you all enjoyed this as much as we did or more, and also the drivers for putting on a fantastic show. Ross, what a day it's been. Do you have anything to say before the recording ends?
If you're not here for Albert Park, I'll be very upset, everybody, because that'll be even better, I reckon.
Yes, and of course we have we still have some GPVWC action to come from Sakhir. We have both the Super Lights and the Super League next week, so keep your eyes peeled for them. Okie dokie, thank you and good night.